Soma Kazuya is your typical overworked corporate slave. His day-to-day life revolves around getting shit-talked by his boss who constantly pushes him for tighter and tighter deadlines. Kazuya has no balls, so he accepts it like a good boy and hopes that he will finally get an upgrade from being a contract hire to a full-time employee. But that dream never comes true because his boss simply refuses to pay him more. With the job market completely cooked, Kazuya has no choice but to accept his fate. No one will even hire him as an intern, let alone give him a real job. Eventually, all the endless work and late-night shifts take their toll. Kazuya's body just gives out and he collapses on the floor. When he wakes up, Kazuya finds himself sitting on a chair surrounded by clouds, looking like Ken Kaneki from the anime Tokyo Ghoul. Kazuya looks around to find his Riz but instead notices a hot chick dressed up in a tight business outfit. The woman introduces herself to be the goddess and tells Kazuya that he is dead. As for his cause of death, he was just overworked to death, which makes him just the right person she was looking for. Kazuya is still confused and wonders if this is some sort of prank, but the goddess just ignores his questions and tells him that there are 3 things a person needs to survive. The first is a cat because they are adorable. The second is love because love is wholesome. And the last is money because no money means no love and no cats. However, Kazuya doesn't have any of these 3 things because he wasted his whole life making millions for his boss while he lived on instant noodles. The goddess is so moved away by this achievement that she can't help but proclaim him as the world's strongest corporate slave. Kazuya can't even bite off the allegations, as everything the goddess said was true, but even though he knows this, he still can't help but feel hurt by all of these insulting remarks. He wonders if this is some form of hell punishment before a soul is vanquished, so he just requests the goddess to vanquish his soul and let him rest in peace as it's his first time experiencing death and he already hates it. But the goddess kicks him in the face and calls him a good-for-nothing loser who couldn't even adopt a stray cat. While Kazuya is enjoying the sensation of her soft feet, the goddess informs Kazuya that his soul won't be vanquished as she has decided to reincarnate him into another world as a hero. Before sending him down to the new world, the goddess tells Kazuya that the world he will be reincarnating into is called Karaviel Continent. She then tells Kazuya that she is called Omiru, but people like to call her Administrator, which is basically a proper name of gods in this world. Though the introduction is over, she kicks Kazuya through a gate which drops him straight into the Karaviel Continent. Soon Kazuya finds himself falling from the sky, and just as he is about to be squashed into a meat patty, a cheap copy of Urza Scarlet grabs him and asks him if the goddess didn't give him any flying skills. Kazuya is in no shape to answer her questions, as he is far too busy absorbing the shock of being reincarnated into a fantasy world. Kazuya expected his new journey to start in a beautiful village with calm surroundings, but instead he finds himself right into the middle of a city siege battle where the demonic forces are trying to invade the last fort of humanity, which is held by a single person, the woman who saved her, also known as General Helga. Kazuya is worried for his future life after seeing the condition of the city, which doesn't even have paved streets. On top of this, the city's entire population is made up of elderly people, women and children because all the abled men had already died in the war. Kazuya turns towards Helga, who seems to be very confident about the city siege, so he asks her if she has any plans. Helga answers by writing an equation on the board that they have 100 troops in her army, and the Demon Lord has 100,000. So if each soldier in her army can defeat 1,000 troops alone, they will be easily able to defeat the Demon Lord's army. Kazuya sarcastically gives her a thumbs up after hearing her answer, but Helga takes it as a serious compliment and starts to blush. But Kazuya has one other question. How can a normal person survive against 1,000 demons? Helga once again answers with a straight face that they just need to not die. Kazuya just let this simpleton enjoy the praise, because he knows that she doesn't have anything left in her thick-head brain. While relishing in the sarcastic compliments, a fat kid nearby grabs onto Kazuya's clothes and asks him if the goddess will be angry at him if he dies before defeating 1,000 enemies. Before Kazuya can even reply, Helga reminds the kid that they have to do everything that the goddess tells them, even if it means eating literal poop. Kazuya points at her and tells her that he ain't eating no poop. He then turns to the fat kid and grabs his puffy cheeks and assures him that he will be safe. But he also advises him to eat some vegetables as he is getting way too fat, and monsters love to eat fatties. After bullying the fat kid, Kazuya tells Helga that they don't need to push the commoners towards their certain death, as the goddess had sent him to this world with a plan on his hand. Just then, the Demon Lord arrives at the city with its army. The Demon Lord is about to initiate the attack, but its secretary stops it, and informs it that the hero of the rebel army wants to surrender himself. The Demon Lord is amused and wants to see what the hero is cooking, so it waits for them. A few moments later, Kazuya and Helga arrive on the battlefield, and Kazuya already starts to sweat bullets after seeing the demonic frame of the Demon Lord. But Helga, on the other hand, doesn't waste any time and lashes out at the Demon Lord with intent to slay it one hit. But before she can reach the Demon Lord's head, Kazuya kicks her down and immediately kneels down in front of the Demon Lord to surrender himself. However, to Kazuya's surprise, the Demon Lord refuses to accept his surrender because it has no use for a useless hero. Instead, the Demon Lord turns to Helga and gives her another chance to challenge it. Helga accepts the challenge and grabs her sword to get ready for another strike. Meanwhile, Kazuya quickly hides in the bushes, and as he wonders if she will be able to defeat the Demon Lord. The goddess told him that Helga is the strongest swordsman, and if it comes to a one-on-one fight, she might be even able to defeat the Demon Lord. However, the reality is far away from the goddess's word, as even after taking all the time to charge her attack, Helga's attack is easily stopped between the Demon Lord's 2 fingers. The Demon Lord is disappointed in Helga's strength and gives her another chance because he believes that she is still holding back. Helga values the last chance and stops holding back her strength. Just like Lee from Naruto, she lets go of her demonic binds that were sucking her magical powers all this time. She then throws the binds towards the Demon Lord, who gets trapped in them and starts losing its magical powers as well. This makes Helga 100 times stronger than before, which frightens even the Demon Lord's secretary, who also hides herself in the bushes alongside Kazuya, who is already hiding from the start. She also asks Kazuya that if Helga somehow defeats the Demon Lord, he should tell Helga that she always admired her. Back to Helga. She charges her final attack and strikes her sword against the Demon Lord's helmet with full power. Kazuya yells at the Demon Lord to be careful, but it's already too late as the magical energy explodes into countless brilliant lights which completely envelops the Demon Lord. All the nearby monsters are also caught up in the explosion and get incinerated into ash. Hadalive is completely drained after this attack, and is sad that after all these years she is the last one to remain standing alive. However, just then, her sadness turns into shock when she looks at the face of the Demon Lord and realizes that it's exactly the same as the goddess that she has been worshipping since she was a child. Before Helga can even process what's going on, the Demon Lord flashes past her and slices off her head cleanly from the root. After finishing off Helga, the Demon Lord turns to Kazuya and asks him what benefit he will provide to her if he were to surrender to her. Kazuya is shocked to learn that the Demon Lord and the goddess share the same face, and that she literally just slimed Helga, so he immediately turns into a dog and starts barking for her. No matter what the Demon Lord asks him, Kazuya replies by barking, which pleases the Demon Lord, who orders Kazuya to keep on practicing his barking skills and let the world know how honorable it is for a person to become her dog. Meanwhile, Helga, whose head lays on the ground, dies without peace as she still can't comprehend why the goddess chose such a man to be their hero. It's unfortunate that Helga never got to learn the truth, as even though the goddess did choose Kazuya to be the hero, the way he arrived into their world was completely different from the goddess's plan. As it turns out, before Kazuya descended into the Cavalier continent, the goddess gave him a few gifts for his future journey. The first gift was a set of new clothes and inner armor, which made him resemble somewhat like a real hero. The second gift was supposed to be his talent, but since Kazuya is so useless, he is basically talentless. This makes the goddess worried that he will also die just like all the heroes that she has sent in the past 500 years. So she decides to give him a talent that only belongs to the gods. But this talent would allow Kazuya to summon all the heroes and gang up to defeat the Demon Lord. But Kazuya asks her why she can't just summon more heroes by herself, to which the goddess replies that there is this rule that there can only be one hero and one Demon Lord in a world at the same time. But since Kazuya isn't an administrator, once he gains her talent to summon heroes, he will be able to bypass this rule and summon as many heroes as it takes to defeat the Demon Lord. This makes Kazuya feel a bit more confident, but he is still worried about a few things. He asks the goddess what would happen if the Demon Lord becomes scared and runs away from the battlefield. The goddess smirks and tells him that she has already prepared a plan for this. She brings out a bottle of alcohol and tells Kazuya that anyone who touches the alcohol would be paralyzed for 1 whole minute. Kazuya becomes excited after hearing this, as with such a powerful tool on his hand, he will be easily able to defeat the Demon Lord and become the new god of this world. He even starts to cook up ideas in his mind on how he would rule the world after the Demon Lord is dead. But just then, the goddess brings him down into the reality as she informs him that after the Demon Lord is dead, he will also die. He will burn away his life to summon all the heroes and then hand over the bottle to General Helga, who will be the one to kill the Demon Lord. Kazuya becomes depressed after hearing the truth, as he realizes that even after reincarnating, his goal is to just sacrifice his life for other people. He asks the goddess what does he get from doing all of this. The goddess laughs at his question and reminds him of the cruel reality that useless people like him only serve one purpose, and that's to burn away their life for other competent people. She also tells Kazuya to not feel too bad, as originally he was supposed to reincarnate as a soldier ant, who are short-lived and can't even reproduce. But if he can help her defeat the Demon Lord, she will change his reincarnation to that of a worker bee, which also can't reproduce, but at least it can be out in the sun and bask in warm light the whole day. Kazuya knows that the goddess doesn't even see him as a human, so he decides to give up and accept whatever life has in store for him. The goddess is proud of his choice and starts transferring her talent to Kazuya. The process is extremely painful that Kazuya wished he was dead, if not that he was already a dead man. After the talent is delivered, Kazuya starts to emit a creepy yet deadly aura. The goddess feels a bit scared after seeing him like this and asks him why he is still wasting time and not jumping into the portal that she has opened for him. But just then, Kazuya leaps towards the goddess and strikes her head with the bottle of alcohol that she had given to him to defeat the Demon Lord. The goddess becomes enraged after being hit by a mere mortal and threatens to turn Kazuya into a worm and torture him by pouring salt all over his wet and slimy body. However, Kazuya ignores her threats and instead pours the paralyzing alcohol onto her body, which immobilizes her for a whole minute. Without wasting any time, Kazuya shoves the bottle down her throat and watches the goddess die in front of his eyes. After killing the goddess, Kazuya comes back to his senses as he realizes the grim reality of the crime that he has committed. But he doesn't feel any regrets, as he is done with other people deciding his life choices. So from now on, he promises to himself that he will not only kill the Demon Lord, but also survive to live a long and happy life. Back to the present, the Demon Lord hands over Kazuya to her secretary so that she can train him to become the finest pet dog on the continent. The secretary accepts the task and takes Kazuya back to the rock fort, where the last surviving population of the human race are living. There she trains Kazuya into becoming a real dog that not only knows how to do tricks like a dog, but also behave like one. Kazuya becomes so engrossed in the role that he even starts to lick the secretary's smooth legs like a real dog. The secretary is grossed out and kicks him away. She tells him that he should never attempt to do such a thing with Her Majesty, or else he might lose his head before even knowing anything. However, despite her harsh treatment, the secretary admires Kazuya for becoming a slave to save the lives of a few hundred humans. Kazuya acts nonchalant and tells her that he was just trying to act cool. The secretary ignores him and just throws a bowl of canned meat towards him and asks him to eat it up like a dog, as he will be fed like one from now on. Kazuya is so damn hungry after the whole day of doing tricks that even the food in a dog bowl looks way too appetizing. Live of this, Kazuya's first day as a dog comes to an end. Following the next day, Kazuya becomes even more passionate about his role as a dog and starts to outperform even the other military dogs. He not only wakes up the earliest, but is also the first one to get in line for breakfast. He also follows every command of the training officer and doesn't hesitate to jump into fire if it means following his orders. All this hard work earns him the status of the royal military dog, who is rewarded with the honor to serve beside the Demon Lord's sleeping tent. The Demon Lord is amazed by his progress, so she decides to upgrade his status from that of a military dog to the captain of the tax department. This makes Kazuya the fastest human to ever evolve from an animal to a proper human. While humanity took 45,000 years, Kazuya did that in just 45 days. However, his sudden promotion comes as a shock to other people in the royal court who don't understand why the Demon Lord would announce such a small promotion in front of the whole government cabinet. While everyone is baffled, the Demon Lord's secretary knows that it's because the Demon Lord trusts Kazuya because he is not from any of the existing factions. That's why she wants him to become a key figure in handling all the internal problems of the kingdom without being biased. This promotion also comes as a shock to Kazuya, who starts to get worried about other people getting jealous of him for getting all the attention. He is also surprised by the cunningness of the Demon Lord, because if he were to perform well, the people of the kingdom would praise the Demon Lord for her smart decisions. But if he were to fail in his duties, the people of the kingdom would hang him for incompetence. Kazuya realizes that this is no different from his previous life as a corporate slave. This is somewhat depressing, but he is still happy, as even a small promotion like this is enough for a bottom feeder like him to grow. With a positive mindset like this, Kazuya walks into his office, where he is greeted by two cute elves. They take Kazuya's hands and lead him around to show him the place. Kazuya had never held a woman's hand before in his life, so an act like this is enough to make him scream without the sex. Kazuya even starts thinking of the names of their future children, but just then the elves bring him back to Earth, as they ask him to sign the paperwork for them. After Kazuya signs the paper, he is brought to the courtyard for his execution. The blonde-haired elf coldly tells him that a dog like him has no business being the captain of their tax department. Kazuya doesn't resist and just smiles widely as he repeats the famous lines of Gold Roger from One Piece. But before he can finish off his speech, the guards kick him down and order him to remain silent. Kazuya wants to complain to the HR department for excessive bullying, but unfortunately there is no such thing in this world. In the meantime, the proprietor behind this scheme walks out and introduces himself to be Grifino, the purest blood of the elves. Grifino tries to assert his dominance over Kazuya by calling him a lowlife, but just then a strong gust of wind knocks off his wig, revealing a bald head beneath it. While Grifino tries to recover his lost aura by gluing his wig back on his head, Kazuya remembers the warning that the Demon Lord's secretary Black Marie gave to him after his promotion. She specifically told him to be careful of a man named Grifino, who has been trying to become the director of the tax department for years. Kazuya knows that Black Marie won't be telling him this if she didn't have any plans for him. Black Marie praises his sharpness and tells him that she has made two plans for him. The first plan is fairly simple. If Grifino ever tries to bully him using his authority, she advises Kazuya to just use brute force to break through his workplace harassment. Kazuya follows the plan and starts to talk crap about Grifino and his receding hairline. This infuriates Grifino, who can bear all insults but the ones about his bald patches. So he immediately orders the guards to execute Kazuya. But Kazuya doesn't even flinch and starts to laugh like a madman. He reminds Grifino that he was first retained by a literal goddess. After escaping her, he was sent to the military dog camp to train for a whole month with the elitist dogs of the Demon Lord's personal army. After all these crazy events, even Kazuya isn't sure how powerful he is. So, without wasting any time, Kazuya breaks free of his handcuffs and charges at the execution guards, who try to shoot him down with their rifles. However, Kazuya seems to have mastered observation haki, so he dodges all the bullets and takes down the guard with a wrestling spear. After taking down the guard, Kazuya grabs his rifle and shoots it at one of the other two guards, and then smacks the hind of it to the face of the last one. Grifino is shocked to see Kazuya take down all three of his guards this easily. He immediately orders the blonde elf to shoot down Kazuya before he can shoot them. But before the elf can even pull the trigger, Kazuya throws the empty rifle towards Grifino's head, which flies past his head, knocking off his wig once again. Grifino is enraged after having his bald head revealed for the second time, so he takes out his personal handgun and starts shooting it blindly towards Kazuya. However, Kazuya easily dodges all the bullets with his observation haki and teleports right in front of his Grifino's face and knocks him down. The whole tax department is shocked to see this and immediately submit themselves to the almighty royal dog, Kazuya. Or at least that's what Kazuya had cooked in his head. The Grifino also starts to laugh at him as he also didn't expect Kazuya to go down this easily after all that haughty speech. Grifino pulls out his handgun and shoots a warning shot that flings by Kazuya's head. He warns Kazuya that next time it will be his head, if he doesn't get on his knees and bark like a dog just like he did in front of the Demon Lord. Kazuya's underlings also advise him to just accept the humiliation as there is nothing better than a chance to live. However, Kazuya remains nonchalant and answers them that the reason he became a dog was that no one else would have to do the same. Grifino feels pissed off because even in the face of death, Kazuya's aura is far greater than him. He wonders if this is because he had been a bit too literary, so he decides to cut all crap and be done with this dog of a human. However, just then Kazuya activates his plan 2, which is to call for help. But he doesn't just call any normal helpers. Instead, he calls his comrades whom he had trained with for a whole month. Soon, Kazuya's bark for help reaches the sensitive ears of the Demon Lord's personal dogs, who don't waste any time before coming over to help him. Grifino is shocked to see the Demon Lord's personal dogs coming over to save Kazuya, as he can't believe that he can control them. Kazuya reminds him that he isn't controlling them, but that they are his comrades who went through all that harsh training with him. He also taunts Grifino as to how he would deal with him now, as taking an action against the Demon Lord's personal dogs is a national treason. Grifino is terrified for his life, but then he remembers that Kazuya had previously signed the paperwork to join the tax office. That means that he has nothing to do with the Demon Lord anymore. Kazuya smirks and asks the elves to check whose name is written on the paper. The blonde elf reads the paper and realizes that Kazuya never wrote his own name in the first place. Kazuya tells her that it was the name that he had planned for their children, but unfortunately that moment will never come true. The blonde elf falls to her knees after hearing this, as she can't believe that she fumbled a loving man like Kazuya for no reason. The white-haired elf consoles her by reminding her that all the viewers watching this video are just as single. Meanwhile, Grifino is on the ropes, so he tries to control the damage by pleasing Kazuya. He tells him that this was all just a harmless prank and that he never wanted to execute him for real. However, Kazuya grabs Grifino's hand and places his handgun on his forehead. He reminds Grifino that pranks like this are long since banned, so he should commit to his words and execute him right away. Grifino is baffled by Kazuya's cockiness, but then he remembers that for a long time he used to be the same. As the noble prince of the elf clan, Grifino was pampered from his childhood, which turned him into a useless fool who couldn't even shoot straight. This led to him becoming the shame of the elf royal family, who were worried that the family's bloodline might end at the hands of a wastrel protege. Grifino hated this feeling of weakness, so when he finally became an adult, he decided to join Helga's hero party to become a man worthy of the throne. Back then, he was extremely cocky and had full faith in himself that he would defeat the Demon Lord and make Helga his bride. However, Helga disliked Grifino, as he was a pathetic man with no real strength. Grifino was so salty after being rejected that he decided to join the Demon Lord's camp to use her power to make Helga submit to him. But that didn't work out as well, because the Demon Lord didn't see any gain from his surrender. Instead, she even poured molten lava over his head, which burned all of his hairs and turned him into a 50-year-old man with bald patches. Even after being reduced to a status lower than a dog, Grifino still didn't give up on Helga. He believed that if he were to prove himself useful in the final battle against humanity, the Demon Lord would grant him whatever he wanted. So he promised the Demon Lord that he would let Helga surrender herself to the Demon Lord without causing any bloodshed. However, right before the Demon Lord could approve his plan, Kazuya appeared out of nowhere and surrendered himself to the Demon Lord, and stole his only opportunity. This eventually led to Helga dying at the blade of the Demon Lord, which destroyed Grifino's last hope to make Helga his bride. Grifino had already sworn to kill Kazuya, but his hatred for him only became even more stronger after he saw the Demon Lord personally promote Kazuya to the rank of a unit, captain of the tax department. This was the same position that Grifino had spent so much money to buy off from another official, but now a random dog that the Demon Lord accepted on the side street had the same position without any efforts. Back to the present, Grifino loses his mind as he can't understand why Kazuya gets such a favorable treatment from the Demon Lord, while he was turned into a bald man in his 20s. After seeing Grifino in a state like this, Kazuya becomes assured of his victory. He thanks Black Marie for her plan, because her plan to leverage the authority of the Demon Lord to act crazy worked perfectly. However, this only worked because no one knows that the Demon Lord hasn't really accepted him. That's why Kazuya dared to rage bait Grafino like this, as even though he holds a gun on his forehead, he still doesn't dare to shoot because he is afraid of the Demon Lord behind him. But Kazuya is still not done rage baiting him, as all the beating he received earlier had really hurt him badly. So to punish a douchebag like Grafino, Kazuya becomes a devil and shaves off all the remaining hair from Grafino's head, and turns him into a completely bald eagle. Grafino is so angry that he spits out blood like a fountain, only to lose consciousness and fall onto the ground. Kazuya is glad that the battle is finally over, because he can now finally pick his itchy nose without losing any aura. However, just then a huge eye appears in the sky, and the time stops. The eye calls Kazuya a damn worm who not only killed a goddess, but also made him suffer because he had to deal with all the paperwork to cover up for his crimes and the shady deals that he made with the goddess. That's why he didn't come down to punish Kazuya, because was busy cleaning up after his mistakes. Kazuya is sure that he is cooked, but just then the Demon Lord arrives and makes a place for herself on top of Kazuya's head. Kazuya wants to look upwards so badly, but unfortunately he is frozen in time. But unlike him, the Demon Lord is completely immune to the time freeze, which doesn't surprise the eye, because the Demon Lord is a ruler who has united the world after all. The Demon Lord ignores his remarks and asks him why she can't sense the presence of Omiru the goddess. The Divine Eye Antiphon reminds her that she's no longer the manager of the dimension, so she has no authority to know anything anymore. While Kazuya is trying to process all this information, Antiphon makes the first move as he sends a formation of clouds to suffocate the Demon Lord. However, the Demon Lord just smirks and tells Antiphon that he is underestimating the strength of the Hood Divine Force. Before Antiphon can even blink, the Demon Lord disappears and cuts apart all of the solid clouds in her way, and uses them as stepping stones to close the distance. Antiphon barely manages to block her sword by creating a cloud barrier, which also serves as a trap for the Demon Lord. However, the Demon Lord doesn't even flinch and uses the barrier to repel herself back, and lands on a nearby building to plan her next attack. After seeing her retreat, Antiphon feels confident in his strength, so he decides to go all out to defeat the Demon Lord in one attack. The Demon Lord follows his mindset and also decides to fully power up to end the battle in one go. So unlike Antiphon, who has the powers of the Divine Plane, the Demon Lord relies on the mortal power of her kingdom, which she summons through the relationship that she shares with them. The power transforms into a crown hollow, which sits on top of her head, giving her a royal aura. She then uses the mortal power to enhance her sword attack, which flashes past all of Antiphon's clouds and pierces through all of the defenses to arrive in front of his eye. Even in the face of the strongest attack from the Demon Lord, Antiphon is still confident that she won't be able to do anything to him, as his true body is still at the heavenly plane. After learning that her attacks have no effect on Antiphon, the Demon Lord decides to step back a little bit and revise her strategy for the next attack. Instead of using the mortal force this time, the Demon Lord harnesses the power of the Caravial continent itself and uses that power to summon the gate to the underworld. From the Hades gate comes out Skull Seraphis, a ferocious three-headed skeleton capable of rivaling the heavenly angels. Antarum is shocked to see the Demon Lord use Gaia Force right after using the mortal force in the previous attack. Even as her enemy, he can't help but praise the Demon Lord's ability, as no wonder she was able to unify the whole world. He also realizes that Omiru had gravely miscalculated her strength and even sent poor Helga to die for nothing. The Demon Lord smirks after hearing Antiphon praise her strength, so she asks him if this was the reason why Omiru ran away from this dimension, after realizing that she can't beat her anymore. She calls Omiru a coward for running away with her tail tucked between her legs, while giving one last order to him to kill Kazuya, who had surrendered to become her dog. Antiphon wants to correct her that both she and Omiru had gravely misjudged Kazuya, as even he didn't expect that Omiru would die such a brutal death at the hands of a mortal man. But as the Demon Lord is no part of the heavenly planes, Antiphon refuses to clear any of her misunderstandings. The Demon Lord also doesn't care about his answers anymore, as right now she is more focused on beating him up and turning him into her servant once again. So she calls out the Skull Seraphis once again, and orders it to drag Antiphon to the top of the continent. Antiphon is caught off guard as he didn't expect the Demon Lord to push him to the Cloud Fort. The Demon Lord gives him a scary smile, as after all these years, she has finally reached the heavens. However, before she can step into the Cloud Fort, it suddenly disintegrates into nothing, leaving her standing motionless in the sky. Antiphon reminds the Demon Lord that the Cloud Fort is home to only gods, so unless she can become a god herself, she won't be able to ever step into it. The Demon Lord is a bit disappointed, as she now knows that there is no shortcut to taking a place in the heavens. Kazuya, both Cloud Fort and Antiphon disappear into the void, but before leaving, Antiphon glares at Kazuya for the one last time, just like that Diddy uncle glancing at his favorite kid before leaving the party. After Antiphon leaves, the time-stop magic disappears and the world returns to normal. Kazuya is happy to finally move, as he can now pick his itchy nose, but his happiness soon turns into horror when his eyes fall on the tax department members who all die gruesome deaths after being dismembered into multiple pieces. The Demon Lord realizes that this must be the after effect of the time stop, so she returns back to the Earth and lands beside Grafino. Just like everyone else, Grafino was also frozen in time, so he couldn't witness the battle between the Demon Lord and Antiphon. So he believes that the Demon Lord must have personally come to teach him and his lackeys a lesson. This makes him so terrified that he soils his pants, making the Demon Lord feel an ick after seeing his ugly face. The Demon Lord turns away from her face and finds Kazuya frozen with a horrified shock on his face. She asks Kazuya if he is too scared to move, which lights up a fire inside him, so he instantly pulls himself back and barks to prove his loyalty. The Demon Lord calls him a good boy and asks him to handle the matter of all these deaths and destruction by framing it however he likes. After giving him the orders, the Demon Lord disappears, leaving Kazuya disillusioned with the weight of all the deaths on his shoulders. Later at night, while the Demon Lord's forces are handling the cleanup and reconstruction of the town, Marie stands on top of a tower as she asks the 6th unit about what truly happened to cause such wide-scale destruction. Harmon, the fruity guy, replies to Marie that he sneezed when suddenly the whole world erupted around him and there were bodies and rubble all around him. However, the purple-haired masochistic woman smacks his head and tells Marie the truth, that all of the destroyed buildings seem to have been sliced cleanly by a blade. She is also about to point out that there is also an eerie aura of the underworld surrounding the town, but Marie stops her and orders her to not speak any word of it. The panda senses the tension between the duo, so he eases them up by playing cute and adorable. But the mood doesn't stay happy for long, as Harmon accidentally calls Marie a queen, which causes her to lash out at him. She reminds Harmon that she is no longer the queen of the humans, as she lost that status after she betrayed them by joining the Demon Lord's camp. While Marie is wallowing in her grief, Kazuya is out in the tax office, lying to the families of the victims that their husbands, sons, and fathers died heroic death while protecting others from a natural disaster. Most of them believe Kazuya because they have no choice, but there are a few who begs Kazuya to tell them the truth as they can't let their loved ones die an unknown death. However, Kazuya stays silent and keeps on lying to his teeth as he can't possibly tell them that they were killed in the aftermath of a battle that the Demon Lord had with a divine being to save him. Later, Marie enters the office and asks Kazuya why he is still lying to the families about the deaths of their loved ones, to which Kazuya answers that he just doesn't want to brush off their deaths to be meaningless. But one morning, Kazuya finds all of his lockers to be painted with insults. The uniforms inside the lockers are also torn off, with red color thrown all over them. Kazuya realizes that he's being bullied by his co-workers, who don't take him seriously at all. Harmon advises Kazuya to remain chill, as everyone will eventually settle down sooner or later. Kazuya looks at Harmon, who was once one of the most feared guys in the tax department as people called him Money Fiend. But one day, he accidentally picked a fight with a noble, which led to him becoming separated from his wife and kids, which is why he has turned into this fruity, mellow guy. While Harmon's approach is to deal with it calmly, the masochist Merit has a different idea. She asks Kazuya if she should find the culprit and have him punished. Kazuya also remembers her past, as according to Marie, she used to be one of the most top-rated chicks at a red light district, but now works at the tax department. Kazuya fully trusts Marie's words as Merit definitely has all those assets for it, but he still rejects both of their opinions, as he likes to deal with things in his own way. He looks around and finds that one of the guys has been laughing a lot all this time, so he walks up to him and directly slaps him on the face. The guy gets so pissed off that he shreds through his clothes and charges at Kazuya to slime him in broad daylight. However, Kazuya uses his trump card and announces to everyone that the Demon Lord has given him the mission to handle the fallout of the tax office bombing. After hearing this, the pissed guy stops in his tracks and looks at Kazuya as if he had held his whole family hostage. Kazuya doubles down on the poor guy and asks Merit what's the punishment for interfering in the task given to an officer by the Demon Lord. Merit replies that it would result in the aggressor's entire bloodline executed before the sun sets. The poor guy begs Kazuya for mercy as he tries to explain that he didn't do anything. But Kazuya threatens him to name the culprit who damaged his locker, or he will send him and his whole family to the gulags. Realizing that Kazuya isn't joking, he can only shift the blame onto his best friend, who looks at him with a shocked expression, as if he had just slept with his wife behind his back. Kazuya puts down the original guy, and turns to slap his best friend, as he asks him to name someone who he thinks is suspicious. Kazuya keeps on repeating the steps until he has slapped everyone in the room except one. The second last guy to get punched is so angry that despite not knowing who the culprit is, he still points at the last poor dude who is just minding his own business, eating noodles. Kazuya asks him why he pointed at the noodle guy, to which he replies that it's because he is the only person who hasn't been slapped in the room yet. Kazuya can't help but agree with him, as it's only fair that he slaps him as well. So he slaps the poor noodle guys anyway, who spits out all the delicious bone broth he was saving for the last bite. After slapping everyone, Kazuya's hand starts to hurt. So he decides to end his facade by informing everyone that as a bigger man he will forgive anyone who ruined his locker. This time, but reminds them that there will be no such forgiveness next time. With this, Kazuya builds his image as this tyrannical officer who fears no one but the Demon Lord. But even after all of this, he still feels unsatisfied because he didn't get to punch Grafino. Grafino was fortunately saved because he was out there acting as a golf tee for someone. But even as a mere Gulf tea, Grafino is still trash, which pisses Lord Asteto of the Aztec Kingdom, who is a second-generation demon chief, the 10th in line to the throne. Grafino begs to apologize, but Asteto reminds him that Gulf teas don't move on their own, so as a punishment, he decides to turn him into a mushroom tree, as this way he will at least be somewhat useful. But just then, the same two elf girls from before try to beg forgiveness on behalf of Grafino by letting Asteto enjoy them in whatever way he wants. Asteto grabs the two of them in a domineering way and asks them if they really mean it. Both of them reply by showing bodily affection, which pleases Asteto, who then tells them that they should hand over their lives to him instead. Before the two girls can even process what happened, their heads are ripped apart, while their bodies turn into mindless mushroom zombies. Asteto reminds them that he is a demon child, the race which has the lifespan of the elves, the technical skills of the dwarves, the physical bodies of beasts, the magic of elementals, and the growth rate of humans. This makes them superior to all of the other 5 races, which is why they are the rulers and all of them are their slaves. And even out of all the demon race, he is the 10th demon child created personally by their mother, the Demon Lord. Grafino is devastated to see his aunt and his caretaker sacrifice themselves to save him, so he begs Asteto to take his life instead and spare his only remaining family. Asteto is moved by their sacrificial spirit. He even feels envious of the familial relationship between them, as even after Grafino betrayed the elves by surrendering to the Demon Lord, he is still loved deeply by his family. Meanwhile, Asteto himself is also a demon child personally created by the Demon Lord, yet he still wasn't made a Kingforge and only remained to be a second-generation demon chief. As it turns out, the Demon Lord created 9 demon children personally to lead the war for her. She named them Kingforgers, and they were destined to inherit the throne after her. They are the only pure-blooded demons, as all the second-generation demons were created by the 9 Kingforgers using blood contracts. That's why even though the second-generation demon race were not pure-blooded, they were still extremely strong. But there was a problem. The second generation couldn't breed with each other, so they could only breed with other races, which led to the creation of the 3rd generation of demon race, which not only had mixed blood demons, but their strength was also minuscule compared to the 2nd generation. That's why Asteto feels aggrieved at being called a 2nd generation, because even though he was also personally created by the Demon Lord, with the same powers as the Kingforgers, the world never called him a 1st generation. But despite all of this, Asteto never gave up, as he believed that the 9 Kingforgers were created just for war and slaughter. Meanwhile, he was created by the Demon Lord to create a new kingdom. Grafino is shocked to see someone more delusional than him, but he knows that if he wants to save the lives of his family, he needs to feed his delusions, so he assures Asteto that if he spares his family, they will all help him in fulfilling his dream of creating a new kingdom. But this only further backfires on Grafino, as Asteto asks him then why did he pick a fight with Kazuya when he knew that he is someone that the Demon Lord has planted to eliminate all the useless worms. So even though hates Kazuya, Grafino's action against Kazuya has turned him, Asteto, into the first problem child to dare to rebel against the mother. So Asteto says his goodbyes to Grafino and advises him to be smart in his next life. But before he can slime him, his 2 maids stop him and remind him that sliming Grafino at this point might affect his contribution points. However, Asteto is still mad and wants to slime out on someone, so he just grabs his own head, rips it out, and starts to knead it into the shape of a building. Meanwhile, back to Kazuya, he is enjoying lunch with his 2 subordinates, who had to eat outside because Kazuya had to go and slap everyone else inside the cafeteria. Just then, a hand appears out of the sky and places a replica building of the tax office where it used to be before being destroyed. Kazuya is flabbergasted, as he asks the duo if this is how the kingdom constructs their buildings. Harmund replies to him that it's not the civil engineer's fault, but the 2nd generation demon chief Lord Asteto, who is also the backer of Grafino. After hearing that Grafino has such a personality as his backer, Kazuya loses whatever appetite he had left. Meanwhile, Asteto's actions earn him praise from all the citizens. Some even hail him higher than the rest of the Kingforgers. Back to Asteto, whose head still looks like a mushroom, asks his 2 maids how many contributions did he gain from repairing the tax building. The maids reply to him that his total points are now 145,202, which puts him at the top of the 2nd generation. But despite all of this, he is still about 10,000 points away from lowest-ranked Kingforger. Asteto asks them if there are any other buildings that need repairing, but the maids tell him that capital is already developed to the max and that there is no room for any more buildings there. So they remind him that they quickly need to act on their plan, or he won't be able to catch up to the Kingforgers in 1 year. However, Asteto doesn't want to wait for a whole year, which pisses him off, because of how easy it was for the Kingforgers to earn contribution points through war, while he has to build a bunch of buildings to earn points just because he was born in a peaceful time. The maids try to cheer up the depressed Asteto by feeding his delusions that the future definitely belongs to him, and that he just needs to wait for the right opportunity. Grafino, who is lying on the side, is observing everything, and realizes that despite Asteto acting so tough, he is still a little kid who desires affection from others. So he also tries to butter him by calling him brother and stuff, but Asteto spits at him, and reminds him that he isn't any Homelander who needs love and affection from others. so he grabs him and throws him into the compost to become fertilizer for his mushroom trees. While Esteto is dealing with Grafino, he receives a phone call from the 5th-ranked King Forger. The maid with cross eyes picks up the call and tells the King Forger that Esteto is busy right now and is not interested in talking to anyone. Esteto becomes frightened after hearing her words and immediately rushes to pick the call himself to control the damage. However, it's already too late as she had already cut the call. Esteto can only cry on his misfortune as he asks her if his big sister said anything. The cross-eyed maid informs him that she gave Esteto a chance to become a King Forger, but the condition is that he would need to get rid of Kazuya for them. However, there is one problem. Esteto can't move on his own, as he still needs to wait till he is completely assimilated with the Elf Mother Tree. Grafino, who is still not willing to give up on his life, sees this as an opportunity and begs Esteto to give him one more chance and promises that he will definitely get rid of Kazuya this time and find a way to earn 10,000 contribution points as well. But Esteto smacks him back into the compost file. Back to Kazuya. Marie invites him over for a discussion and informs him that there are people after his life and that he will be slimed in under 24 hours. Kazuya can't believe that someone has the balls to go after his life even though he's publicly known as one of the Demon Lord's most loyal dogs. But Marie assures him that her information is 100% accurate because she had been observing all of Esteto's moves in the past couple of days. She lists everything that Esteto has done in the past couple of hours, but even after hearing all of that, Kazuya still doesn't understand how this correlates to Esteto coming after his life. Marie adjusts her glasses like an anime protagonist and tells him that it's because she had wiretapped Esteto's phone, and from his phone call with the 5th of the King Forgers that lasted 28 seconds, she was able to learn that Esteto wants to slime him to gain enough contribution points to become a King Forger. Kazuya asks her why she couldn't just tell him this from the start instead of dropping all that useless information about how he built the tax building and other stupid stuff. Marie ignores his questions and instead yells at him to not waste time stupidly arguing with others and instead get his butt to start working on a plan to save his life. Later at night, Marie takes Kazuya to a stone fort which was built by a senior hero 2 centuries ago. Harmon remembers reading about that senior hero in history books, so he informs Kazuya that Raphael was a hero who fought against the Demon Lord for 30 years without losing. In his respect, the Demon Lord called him the strongest hero ever. Meanwhile, compared to Raphael, Kazuya barely lasted 45 minutes, which is the shortest time in the entire continent's history. Kazuya feels embarrassed after hearing his shameful record, so he tries to save his face by correcting Marie that he is the wisest hero because he knew that no one can beat Demon Lord, so he quickly surrendered and became the first hero to save the most time. His explanation causes even his subordinates to put their palms on their face, but they also smile because this is what makes their captain so great. Harmon wants to follow Kazuya to his death, but he gives Merit a chance to escape because she doesn't have to die with him. But Marie tells him that they would have died at the hands of Grafino if it were not for Kazuya. But Harmon reminds her that they wouldn't even have been in such a condition if not for Kazuya being their captain. In the end, they both decide to follow Kazuya, because unlike other captains who humiliated them because of their pasts, Kazuya didn't care and gave them proper respect. However, Kazuya reminds them that in a battle of big shots, small shots like them will suffer terribly, so he asks them to stay back and let him handle everything. But when the crew insists once again, Kazuya has no choice but to tell them his real feelings. He tells them that ever since he came to this world, he has been in a lot of terrible spots, but every time he was forced to make hard decisions, and every time people lost their lives, that's why he doesn't want to see innocent lives be lost, especially not his dear subordinates. While Kazuya is giving a hearty speech back at the barrier of the Elf Mother Tree, which is a mushroom mother tree now, Grafino is shocked to learn that the most fearsome assassin of Helga's hero team is still alive. Moreover, Esteto has summoned him to the kingdom to assassinate Kazuya for the reward of 100,000 gold coins, all on a single condition that Aimo won't let anyone know that it was Esteto who ordered him to slime Kazuya. Aim accepts the task because everyone in the world knows him for being Helga's most loyal hound, so taking revenge on her behalf won't surprise anyone. Back at the stronghold, Marie hides Kazuya inside the fort while her soldiers stand on guard, shooting down everyone who dares to trespass. One such trespasser is an assassin under the guise of a maidservant. When the guards try to stop her, she lifts her skirt, which blinds all of them. She uses this opportunity to pull out her hidden blades and cut down all 3 of them, while proclaiming that Kazuya's bounty will be hers. But just then, she finds a gun barrel aimed at her. Before she can even react, the guard pulls the trigger, and the rest is history. He then informs Marie that everything is taken care of and that the stronghold is secured. Marie praises them for their good work and hangs up. Kazuya is flabbergasted after seeing such tight security and feels bad for sending away his subordinates, as this would have been an excellent chance to aura farm in front of them. While Kazuya is feeling down, Marie is feeling happy as she finally got a chance to flex her aura in front of Kazuya. Kazuya asks Marie why her soldiers are so strong, to which she replies that they are genetically modified super soldiers who only accept orders from her and the Demon Lord. Kazuya starts to thank the Demon Lord for sending such strong soldiers to defend him, and promises to himself that he will prove to her that he is her most loyal dog. The Maori feels angry at him for praising the Demon Lord because she was the one who ordered these soldiers to protect him, as she felt bad for him. Otherwise, the Demon Lord doesn't even know that Asteto is trying to slime him. Marie's haughty attitude pisses off Kazuya, who reminds her that the Demon Lord has once moved personally to save him, so it doesn't matter if she didn't order the soldiers or not. To connect his just as Kazuya finishes his words, he realizes that he has messed up big time. He looks upward and finds Marie glaring at him with red eyes. She reminds him that he told her that he didn't know why the Demon Lord appeared at the tax department, and that he doesn't know why the tax building exploded. So Marie threatens him to tell her the truth as to what truly happened, as after that incident, the Demon Lord has disappeared from the public and hasn't come out of the astral tower for days. And even though Kazuya knows the truth, he is still hesitant to tell her, because how can he explain to her that the Demon Lord was once the Dimension Manager, just like the goddess Omiru, and that she fought against Antiphon because she wants to take over the Cloud Fort once again to become a god? Kazuya's silence pisses off Marie, who punches him in the face and threatens him to tell the answer who had the Demon Lord fought against, or else she will take back all of her soldiers and leave him alone to fend for himself all alone in this stronghold. Kazuya is scared that Marie might really leave him all alone, so he decides to tell her the truth. In this way, she will become his accomplice in crime, and he will have material to blackmail her in the future. But he doesn't forget to aura farm a little about how the Demon Lord personally came to save him, so that Marie will treat him even better from now on. But before he can finish his story, the floor beneath him cracks and flies out of the building, taking Kazuya with him. As Kazuya is being taken away, he curses Marie for being a liar and not protecting him even though he told her the truth. Some time ago, back at the Elf Mother Tree, Asteto orders the Cross-Eyed Maid to find Kazuya's location within the stronghold, so that he can use his powers of the Elf Mother Tree to cut that part of the building and take away Kazuya. This is possible because every building within the domain of the Elf Mother Tree can be controlled like Lego pieces by Asteto, who can freely manipulate them however he wants. The Cross-Eyed Maid finds Kazuma's location on the 43rd section, and Asteto quickly sends away his mushroom spores to infiltrate the stronghold through the vents and mark Kazuya's location. After that is done, Asteto orders the Cross-Eyed Maid to cut apart the whole building, but without harming Marie, Demon Lord's secretary. The blonde super soldier Fee-1 tries to save Kazuya, but his arm gets ripped off as the pulling strength is too strong. But despite this, he still continues to hold on to the floor section, as Marie still hasn't ordered them to leave Kazuya's side. Back to Unit 6, all of them are enjoying gourmet food when suddenly they hear the scream of their captain. Harmon finds their captain's scream to be a nice music to enjoy their dinner with. But Marie, she just grabs the panda and rides on his back to go and save the captain. Meanwhile, Asteto is enjoying the plan moving towards the right direction when suddenly he receives a call from Marie, who warns him to not harm a single hair on Kazuya's body, or she will snitch to the Demon Lord that he was the one who ordered for her favorite dog's assassination. Asteto's smiles fades away from his face as he realizes this wasn't how his plan was supposed to go. So he lies to Marie that he was just trying to renovate the stronghold when suddenly he noticed that someone was stuck on the piece he was moving. That's why before that piece could crash into the crash site with the victim, he used his mushroom powers to soften their landing. Marie doesn't know what he is yapping about, so she just asks him what he plans to do with Kazuya. Asteto pretends that he doesn't know who she is talking about, and tells her that all he knows is that a random human got into a construction accident which sent him directly flying towards a stone quarry. Aside from that, he doesn't know what will happen to that human, as there are a lot of assassins roaming the streets these days. Back to Kazuya, he and Fef1 land into the stone quarry, where it suddenly starts to rain heavily. Kazuya has read enough comics to know that this is a bad omen, so he quickly readies himself for the worst, and just like how he predicted, a swarm of assassins start to make their way towards them. Fem assures Kazuya that he will protect him. Meanwhile, Kazuya grabs a crowbar and promises F1 that he will try to be a replacement for his left hand. In the heavy rain, the duo charges straight at the 100 assassins who also come at them in the form of human waves. One assassin tries to jump in the sky to grab Kazuya, but before he can even reach him, F1 cuts him down with his bare hands. The assassins realize that F1's whole body is sharp as blades, so they advise each other to not let him touch them. But despite this, their numbers continue to dwindle, which causes some of them to attempt to run away, but their boss slimes out anyone who dares to run away from the battlefield. This forces the assassins to march towards their inevitable deaths as they hope to catch F1 off guard and take Kazuya away from him. However, Kazuya doesn't give them this opportunity, as he keeps on jumping from one spot to another, while F1 cuts through all of them. But in the end, the F1 is still caught off guard when a few assassins tie him with chains and electrocute him to stop him from moving. All the while, their boss sneaks and attacks F1 from behind as he pierces the cursed sword straight into F1's back. The cursed sword weakens F1, who is unable to move a muscle. Kazuya tries to help F1 by biting into the assassin's boss leg, which causes him to loosen his grip on his sword. But the assassins quickly come over to help their boss by kicking on Kazuya's head to move him away. However, no matter how many times he is kicked, Kazuya doesn't budge and keeps his teeth stuck on the flesh of the assassin's boss. All the injuries on Kazuya's head result in brain damage, which causes him to talk with himself inside his own head. All the Kazuyas in his head argue with each other over what they should know to get out of this situation. Some of them want Kazuya to run away and leave F1 behind, while some of them are heroic and want Kazuya to save his partner. Some even start to curse Kazuya for getting into a rough position, even though he promised last time that he will slowly grind his way towards the top of the ladder and become the new demon lord of the world. Kazuya is tired of their banters, but he also can't stop them because they are him after all. So the only thing he can make them shut up is by defeating them in logic. To center his argument by giving them an example from his childhood on how he wanted to become an astronaut. But in the end, all he could become was the world's strongest corporate slave. However, this doesn't mean that he should die because he couldn't fulfill his dream. Before Kazuya can continue, another Kazuya grabs him and points at the screen and tells him that if he doesn't do anything now, he might just die for real. But back in the real world, one of the assassins picks up a sledgehammer in frustration. After realizing that Kazuya won't budge away with just normal kicks, the assassin boss reminds the assassin to not slime Kazuya because that was not in their orders. But the assassin doesn't listen to him and is about to slam down the sledgehammer when suddenly Kazuya bites down into the boss's leg with full strength and manages to bite a chunk away. This makes the assassin's boss take off his hands from the cursed sword, which allows F1 to fully unleash his strength as he goes into full Terminator mode. His mechanical body starts shooting out lasers from everywhere which melt through anyone and anything. Nearing the end, all the assassins die from the lasers, leaving behind only their boss, who also gets lasered by F1, who is moving like Prime Homelander. While this is all going on, Marie is still stuck on a call with Esteto as she threatens him to tell her the coordinates where he sent Kazuya. However, Esteto plays dumb and refuses to tell her anything, proclaiming that he has gotten brain damage and can't remember anything these days. Marie is about to curse his mother when suddenly she notices F1's lasers going off wildly in the distance. Marie hangs up the call and immediately orders the rest of the modified super soldiers to go and rescue Kazuya. One of the super soldiers reminds Marie that they don't really need to go after Kazuya, as F1 is strong enough to protect him on his own. However, the super soldier cannot be more wrong, as the assassins that F1 just dealt were merely pawns that were used to force F1 to use his trump card. Because the real assassin is still Aim Grim, who was not only once part of Helga's hero team, but he was also one of her teachers. So Kazuya is not only guilty of killing all of his assassin students who were all once orphans whom he took in and gave them a new life, but he also mercilessly killed Helga, who had such a bright future ahead of her. Kazuya immediately stops him and corrects him that he didn't kill Helga, but she challenged the Demon Lord on her own will, and died as a result of that. As for his other students, it was their fault for standing in the way of F1, who was just trying to protect him. The old Aim wants to argue with him, but Kazuya doesn't let him speak and continues to bash his ideals by calling him a traitor who betrayed the goddess faction to join hands with a demon chief to plan an assassination attempt against him. Kazuya even goes on to call him a senile old man who has become so old that his brain doesn't seem to be functioning properly. Aimin coughs up blood after hearing such devious insults, which surprises even F1, who can't believe that a human mouth is capable of spewing such filth. But he also praises Kazuya for standing up to opponents that he can't beat. Kazuya reminds him that they just killed 100 men, so what's wrong with killing a few more? However, F1 dumps cold water over all of his expectations by telling him that he can't beat any of them as they are way too strong. Kazuya suddenly starts to regret opening his foul mouth, as it always ends up turning a bad situation into a terrible one. While Kazuya is regretting his life choices, Aim starts explaining to him the power system of this world. He uses puppets to explain to Kazuya that a level 10 being is as sturdy as a bull, while level 20 being is as nimble as a monkey. As for level 30 and 40, they are still within normal expectations and aren't as flashy. However, everything changes after level 50, where the power level suddenly explodes. Kazuya starts to get bored after hearing such boring and lengthy explanations, and asks him if he can't just skip the power level explanation stage. Aim feels very disrespected, and reminds Kazuya that for a good world building, power system explanations are extremely necessary. Otherwise, the viewers won't understand which opponent is strong and which is not. Kazuya can't really argue against it, so he decides to give this point over to Amy, who then continues on with his explanation as to why F1 can't stop him and his 7 honor students. He asks F1 if it is correct that the lasers he just launched earlier were one-time thing, meant to be used as a trump card. Kazuya begs F1 to not tell the truth, but it's hard to make a robot lie, so F1 tells Amy that he is indeed correct. Arim feels satisfied after hearing his answer, and sends out all 7 of his honors to go and defeat F1 and capture Kazuya. However, F1 quickly sends Kazuya to top of the cliff using a nearby trolley, and then cuts off the cable so that no one will be able to reach him without defeating him first. Arim praises F1's sharp mind, as beings below level 50 can't fly, which makes Kazuya very safe staying on top of the cliff. The first of F1's students to go into battle is Griffin's copy, who is also his top student at level 49. But before the poor guy can even do anything, F1 puts 10 holes into his body with a gun that Kazuya secretly gave him before their fights against the assassins. The second fighter is F1's number 4 student, who is a wannabe sumo wrestler whose body is tough like steel, which makes the bullets deflect off after hitting him. But the side effect of such durability is his weak strength, which isn't even able to put a dent on F1's body. To get rid of the sumo wrestler, F1 puts the barrel of his gun inside his mouth, as no matter how tough his outer shell is, there is no way that his guts are as tough. But before he can pull the trigger, the number 5 student slices of his gun in his half with his sharp sword. His sharp sword threatens even F1, who immediately grabs the sumo wrestler and uses him as a shield to stop the number 5 sword. While F1 is occupied fighting against number 4 and number 5, the number 1, who was supposed to be dead, stands up once again and rushes at F1 with dynamites in his hands. Manhwa reveals that number 1 has super regeneration, which is why even after the explosion, he will still come out alive and completely fine. Kazuya is watching all of this from the above and starts to get worried about F1. He was hoping that Marie would come to rescue them, but even after waiting all this time, there is still no sign of reinforcements. However, Kazuya doesn't know that the reinforcement had already left a while ago. But to reach him is a difficult task, but Amich has set up assassins on every route. On top of this, the super soldiers that Marie sent over as reinforcement, all 3 of them are far weaker compared to F1, who is the only true genetically modified super soldier. This makes Marie wonder if these 3 were hired through nepotism, because there is no way that super soldiers can be this weak. While Marie is cursing the super soldiers, their opponent, who is number 10 student of Aim Grim, is also cursing her teacher. Even though she is a top 10 student with immense strength, she was still now allowed to join the Kazuya hunting team, and instead she was sent here into the forest to stop Kazuya's minions from coming over to rescue him. Though after hearing her frustrations, Merit can't help but ask her, why is she still chasing after them, if it's their captain she wants to hunt down? But Merit's words only further antagonize the number 10, who tells her that she doesn't know anything about her. Merit is about to turn back to curse her, when suddenly her foot gets stuck in a rock, and she trips onto the ground. The number 10 doesn't waste this opportunity and is about to turn Merit into a smash patty, when suddenly Harmon appears out of nowhere and stops her from stomping on Merit. A while ago, Harmon followed Merit into the forest to rescue Kazuya. However, when they reached there, they saw the lasers flying through the sky, which scared both of them into changing their route. On their way, they met the 3 super soldiers, but then they didn't know that they were frauds and not super strong like their brother F1. So they both gladly followed the 3 of them. But when it finally came time to fight the assassins, all 3 of them were easily defeated, which forced Merit and Harmon to run away. However, Harmon was slow and caught by number 10, who chose to spare him after he begged mercy for his life. But when Harmon saw that the number 10 is targeting Merit, he first tried to ignore them, but then he remembered his daughter and realized that if she were to know that her father abandoned a young girl to die, she would never forgive him. Harmon stopped caring about his life and jumped in the number 10's way to stop her from stomping down onto Merit. The kicks knock down Harmon, but before he falls unconscious, he orders Merit to run away and leave him behind. However, Merit can't just leave him behind after how he endangered his own life to save her. She also remembers how Harmon always treated her to food, but when she asked her why he did that, his answer was fairly simple. It's because her face reminds him of his daughter. Merit doesn't know why she remembered this specific moment, but what she does know is that she can't let him die here, so she drops her facade and orders Panda to slime the number 10. The number 10 senses a frightening presence behind her, so she quickly turns around and tries to kick the panda away using her thick thighs muscles. But the panda grabs her leg mid-air and lifts her up to shake her into the shape of a ball. He throws her around to test her bounce quality, and after he has his fill, he throws her onto the ground through an imaginary hoop. After such treatment, the number 10 is completely knocked out, so Merit decides to end her misery by putting lid through her skull. The number 10 knows that she is cooked, so she starts to rage bait Merit by telling her that she's so gay that she can't even shoot straight. Potra, just then a red-haired girl besides Aim hears a gunshot and informs her teacher about it. She wonders if it's number 8, because she was the one left to patrol that side of the area. After learning this, Aim quickly tells his other students to go and wrap up the whole fight. The first one to act are number 3 and number 7, who use their fast movement and stealth style to buy some time for number 1, who becomes a newborn after expending much of his regeneration superpowers. So they use the cover of the fire and smoke to sneak past F1, but they forget to calculate that F1 has supervision, which can see through all the materials, so they are quickly discovered and shot down. The number 3 realizes that they are cooked, so he decides to take off his mask and confess to number 7 that he has always loved her cat ears and that he always wished to marry her. The number 7 is so shocked that he can speak that she forgets that there is a laser beam charging towards them. But before F1 can laser them, a giant hand knocks him down, which turns out to be the number 6 student, whose ability allows him to turn any part of his body into a giant limb. With this, all the top 7 students are gathered as they stand against F1 to take him down and bring Kazuya's head to their teacher. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Merit pulled the trigger after being rage-baited by the number 10. But before her bullet could do anything, it was stopped between the fingers of Aima's number 8 student. The number 8 tells Merit that since she interfered in her fight against the number 10, she will allow one of them to escape. Except the panda, whom she won't kill as she likes cute things. Mornet feels terrified of number 8, and it's because number 8 is the only student who is level 50. This puts her strength even above the top 7 students, which is why they always ask Aim about number 8's low ranking. Aim's answer was always a bit heartbreaking, because even though number 8 has the highest level, she doesn't have any special ability like the rest of them. That's why sooner or later they will surpass her, and she won't be able to catch up to them. Even though Merit doesn't know that number 8 is level 50, her senses tell her that if she pulls the trigger, she might get sliced in half. That's why even Panda, who is supposed to be the strongest of them, is trying to play cute in front of number 8, just to survive. Even when he tries to bite her, number 8 feels that he is trying to play with her, just like dogs play with their owners. So Merit just gives up and decides to let fate take its course. She also apologizes to Harmon, because she wasted his chance at his life just to save a coward like her. But Harmon disagrees with her, and tells her that he will bargain with Number to take his life instead of Panda, so she can leave with Panda. But Merit is tied to all of this. She doesn't want to play these games anymore, where one person has to die to save others, so she decides to drop her facade for a second time, which is getting pretty repetitive at this point. She uses her spirit ability for once in a long time to enlarge her pistol, which she points at number 8, but before number 8 can even move, Merit pulls out another gun and points it at the injured number 10. Merit then gives number 8 a choice, either choose her own life or let number 10 live. This brings back number 8 to one of the earliest childhood memories. She remembers how she was trained by Aim to be the perfect assassin, but she hated it. Every night she suffered from terrible dreams where she saw corpses and spirits of people she assassinated. Aim tried to brainwash her by telling her to see all of her targets as livestock. This way she won't feel anything when killing them. He tried to make her believe that the whole world operates on jungle law and that the strongest is always right and that the weak should just die. Even though F wanted to disagree, she couldn't because she was scared that if she didn't follow his advice, the ghosts in her dreams might never leave her alone. Back to the present, Merit pulls the trigger, expecting that number 10 might jump straight into her bullet to save number 8. Because Merit believes that number 8 is a sensitive girl who believes in friendship, fairness, and love, that's why someone like her would never throw away someone else's life to save herself. And if she tries to do that, Panda will be able to backstab her. However, number 8 never moves away from her position, and she lets number 10 be riddled with holes. This is where Merit realizes that number 8 is completely different from her. Unlike her, who wants everything in the world, the number 8 has thrown away everything and desires nothing. But still, she can't help but ask her why she did not try to save number 10, as she could have easily done so. Number 8 replies to her that it's the survival of the fittest. So number 10 was weaker than her. That's why she had to die. But Merit is still confused, so she asks number 8 why she stopped the bullet last time, if she cared so much about the survival of the fittest. They all died. This question makes number 8 teary-eyed, as she starts to smack her head into the trees to forget about her memories that she spent with number 10. She begs Merit to not ask her any more questions like this because she might start seeing the ghost faces in her dreams once again. Merit becomes horrified seeing number 8 act like this and wonders if it's her fault. But the number 8 is in no condition to hear Merit as she is too busy asking herself questions if she should have saved number 8, even if it meant accepting that not all lives are equal. This causes her a massive headache, so she starts to blame it on Merit and accuses her of using magic to play tricks on her. The madness on number 8's face scares Merit, who quickly runs back to Harmon, apologizing to him for wasting his chance at life. However, Harmon grabs her and throws her towards Panda, and orders him to hold on to her and run away. The number 8 quickly catches on to their trick and tries to stop them before they can get away. But before she can strike Harmon, the 3 remaining super soldiers arrive and stop her. Meanwhile, Kazuya is bored of waiting for F1 to finish the fight, so he starts roaming around the cliff to kill time. Soon, he stumbles onto a massive rock and notices that there is something written onto it. Kazuma reads the text, which is quoted to his name by the great hero Raphael from 250 years ago. Raphael tells Kazuya to not be worried as he isn't some ghost but just a man who has the ability to see into the future. That's why he once had a vision that Kazuya will come here, so he wrote this text to warn him off something. He first introduces himself as the strongest, which is a title that's forbidden to even talk about these days. Afterwards, he assures Kazuya that he is not a con artist, and that he just wants to warn him that he will die very soon. Kazuya just scoffs after reading this, as this is not the first time someone has told me that he will be dying very soon. In fact, he tells Raphael that it has been more than 10 chapters since then, but he is still in kicking. However, just then, the whole cliff starts to shake, and Kazuya notices that F1 is going crazy, and that there are gunshots coming from the forest. Kazuya is worried that the assassins might catch up to him, so he quickly starts searching for what's written ahead. But instead of writing, he only finds numbers which resemble a countdown of his life. Kazuya wonders if this means that he only has 5 seconds left to live. This makes him question what he should do in these 5 seconds, relive his precious memories, think about his regrets, or just lay down and wait for the 5 seconds to be over. But that's only what beta males do. As for Kazuya, he is an alpha male, so he is not willing to resign himself to fate. So he just grabs a stone and starts smashing it on the numbers to stop the prophecy from being fulfilled. However, this turns out to be his best decision, as beneath the cracked surface of the cliff, he finds a box with One Piece written on it. While Kazuya has found the One Piece before Luffy ever could, F1 is fighting for his life down there beneath the cliff. He looks like the Terminator from the third movie, where he is all battered up and almost destroyed, but he still stands up and warns AIM to give up on assassinating Kazuya, as he is the Demon Lord's favorite dog. He also reminds them that they are in the Demon Lord's kingdom, so there must be some elites coming over to save Kazuya. Kazuya can't help but laugh at the naivety of F1, as he doesn't understand that no one will be coming over to help him. He proves this by calling for help and announcing that the last remaining forces of the goddess camp are trying to kill a loyal servant of the Demon Lord. However, even after shouting for minutes, no one comes over to help F1 and Kazuya. This is already enough to destroy F1's morale, but just then he also notices annihilation beams going off in the forest, which makes him realize that the rest of the super soldiers must also be facing a tough opponent. While F1 is distracted by his comrades, the 5 of the 7 assassins charge at him, with each and everyone giving their all in this one final attack. The number 5 assassin enlarges his holy sword and hands it over to the number assassin hero, who grabs it with his gigantic hands. The number 4 assassin turns his whole body into steel, which makes him as heavy as a whole truck falling onto F1. But despite all of these attacks, F1 doesn't even flinch and just stands there taking it heads on. In the meantime, the number 3 and number 7 assassin starts climbing to the top of the cliff to reach Kazuya and bring his head to their teacher. But what they don't know is that Kazuya has already found the One Piece. Back to Panda, after he ran away with Merit in his arms, he arrives at the entrance of the castle and calls out to the soldiers to send help for the 6th unit, which is being attacked by the remnants of the false goddess. However, the soldiers ignore her, as they are ordered by the brigadier to not care about whatever happens outside the castle till the party is over. One of the soldiers dares to tell the colonel that it's their duty, but in response, the colonel pulls out his pistol and just slimes the poor guy out of this world. After such a response, the rest of the soldiers put their hands on their mouths, just like that one meme of a so speed. While Merit is crying in front of the castle gates begging for help, Kazuya is getting closer and closer to being ambushed by number 3 and number 7. Even though the number 7 is the weakest bunch of the 7 assassins, she still has her own pride and wants to show off by taking off Kazuya's head for herself. So even though the climb to a vertical cliff is extremely difficult, the number 7 persists and keeps on climbing the cliff by jumping on and off from the falling rocks. She does all of this while still holding on to the number 3 on her back, whom she can't drop down because she still needs a strong ally who will do anything for her. At least that's what she tries to portray, but in reality, she is a big softie at heart and can't just abandon someone who just confessed their feelings to her. Soon they both arrive at the middle way of the cliff, where they find a small gap to stand down and take a break. While they are catching their breath, their eyes fall onto the battlefield where everyone is going plus ultra and using their ultimate combos. This makes number 7 clench her fists, as she knows that she can never be as strong as them, so she needs someone who will follow her every order. So she asks number 3 if he is really serious about dating her. She then tells him that if he can bring down Soma and become the strongest hero, she will marry him in a heartbeat. The number 3 becomes hyped up after hearing this, and assures number 7 that he will even move mountains if it meant marrying her. While this is all happening, back to number 8. She is caught off guard by the 3 super soldiers, who immediately activate their forbidden annihilation beam to take her down in one go. But to use that, the 2 of them need to coordinate, so that the 3rd can save his trump card and escape with Harmond. The bald one decides to go first, as he lands in front of number 8, and puts his fingers on his forehead to unleash a devastating solar wave. The number 8 was expecting a sun to come out of the bald soldier, but instead it's just some fireworks that shoot through the holes on his head, creating a fireworks show. But just then the orange-haired super soldier appears behind her, with his right leg on fire, as if he is Sanji from One Piece. The number 8 quickly becomes cautious, but the orange hairs jumps past her and lands beside the baldy and starts to dance, while the fireworks goes off in the distance. The number 8 is still afraid that they might be putting on a show, so that their last Miku-looking super soldier might catch her off guard and unleash a devastating attack on her. But the last guy also ends up turning out to be a fraud, so number 8 just slimes them all and ends their fraud agenda. With this, all battlefields came to a conclusion. The number 8 had finished off the remaining reinforcements. F1 is about to be sliced into half by the assassins, which only leaves Kazuya, who is also on a dead end, as number 3 and number 7 are rapidly approaching the cliff top. 250 years ago, 15 years before the Great Divine War, humanity was in shambles. They had lost thousands of heroes, with tens of heroes dying each day. Things were so bad that humanity had started to lose hope in their goddess, and victory was a far-fetched dream. But then came Raphael, a young man with ambitions greater than anyone in the world. He had the power to see the future, so nothing could escape his all-seeing eyes. With the sword in his hand and foresight, he led the humans to a war against the Demon Lord, which lasted for the whole 30 years. During this time, humanity was at their peak, and the Demon Lord forces couldn't take an inch forward. But it was all temporary. Raphael was a human in the end, a human with limited time span, so each battle caused him to become older and older till all that remained was a skeleton. So to protect humanity, Raphael abandoned his humanity and became a specter. But it was still not enough. While Raphael was becoming weaker, the Demon Lord was growing stronger, as the Demon Lord doesn't age. So on his deathbed, Raphael ordered his student Edward to arrange a meeting with the Demon Lord. Edward accepted the task and secretly contacted the Demon Lord to have a few final words with her greatest rival. The Demon Lord accepted the invitation, and the strongest hero and the Demon Lord met in a room for the first time. This meeting was never shared publicly, so no one ever knew that they met them. In the meeting, Raphael finally confirmed his theory that the Demon Lord and Goddess Omiru are just the two sides of the same coin. The Demon Lord removes her fake horns and asks Raphael why he called her here. Raphael tells the Demon Lord that he will help her end this meaningless war and help her in unifying the whole continent, but on one condition: that she will put humans first, even in the New World. He tells the Demon Lord that this isn't an order but a request from his side, but the Demon Lord rejects his request and instead grabs Raphael's hand and asks him if he wants to break free from his mortal shell. She promises to give him a body of a higher being, which will make him as strong as her, and in return she only wants him to govern the world, as she truly believes that he's the best person for it. But Raphael declines her offer, and asks her to let go of his hand, as he will never surrender his humanity even as a specter. After the deal failed, Raphael spent 5 years developing a magic to summon the goddess to the mortal realm. Humankind was ecstatic to see their goddess in flesh for the first time, but Raphael didn't have the time to appreciate her beauty, as he has exhausted every last bit of strength, and after this he won't be able to survive any longer. So he takes out a scroll on which he had written the plan to defeat the Demon Lord, and hands it over to the goddess. But Omiru punches him down and calls him an idiot for wasting so many years prolonging the war, where she could have summoned many new heroes who would have definitely been able to defeat the Demon Lord. Edward tries to explain the goddess that Raphael isn't just any random skeleton, but he's the hero of humanity. In response, the goddess punches him away and tells him that she knows that he is Raphael. That's why she is hitting him in the first place. The poor Edward loses whatever faith he had for the goddess in his heart and decides to go full atheist mode. Meanwhile, the goddess continues to humiliate Raphael by calling him a narcissistic idiot who thinks that his little human power is going to let him defeat a demon lord. She even steps on his skull in front of the whole crowd, but Raphael doesn't flinch, as he had received a prophecy that years later a hero will appear who will get rid of this useless goddess. He will then bound the demon lord and save humans from extinction. This revelation shocks Raphael, as in his 145 years of life, he has seen more than 80,000 futures, but out of all of them, Kazuya's future is the only future where he saw the Demon Lord's defeat. After the public humiliation, the goddess declares Raphael to be unfaithful, as he extended his life forcefully just to live an extra few years. This causes huge riots in public, who protest against him for being a dictator. Some people are truly angry at him, while others just join because they want to watch the world burn. Some of the people even join the protests only to find partners for marriages, as all the hot baddies in the kingdom are out to protest against Raphael. These riots made the world nobles extremely happy, as Raphael was a strict ruler who imposed heavy taxes on the nobles. So now that the whole of humanity is against Raphael to oust him as the leader, the nobles decide to fuel the flame by making his favorite student, Edward, turn into a weapon against him. They corrupt Edward by showing him a glimpse of luxury life where he can enjoy gourmet food, fine wines, beautiful women, and much more. However, even after all of this, Edward still refuses to sell out his teacher, at least for not what the nobles are currently paying him at the moment. He demands them to increase the gold, and only after that he will help them in getting rid of Raphael forever. The world nobles are enraged by his greedy nature, but Raphael is even a bigger fishbone down their throat, so they accept his proposal and give him as much wealth as he wants. After Edward is happy, they tell him that he just needs to poison Raphael with a drink from this bottle of alcohol, which they secretly secured from the Demon Lord camp. Meanwhile, at Cloudfort, Antiphon tells Omiru that the plan that Raphael gave them isn't half bad. The only downside is that Omiru will lose her powers for some time, but after that hero is done dealing with the Demon Lord, she will regain her powers to summon heroes once again. Omiru already knew that Raphael's plan couldn't get any better, but she is just hesitant to use a human's plan because of her prideful nature. Just when Omiru admits that she likes Raphael's plan, the future changes, and Raphael receives a vision as to how Kazuya really killed Omiru. But to make life easier for him, Raphael decides to help out Kazuya by giving him a special weapon against the goddess. That weapon turns out to be the same alcohol bottle that the nobles gave to Edward to poison Raphael. But Edward never intended to poison Raphael in the first place. He was only working with the nobles because Raphael told him that in the future, after he dies, Edward would need another identity to survive and finish the remaining work for him. He gives him a list of things to do, and he makes Edward promise to him that he will fulfill everything in the list, even if it costs him his life. With this, the whole plan was set in motion. Edward successfully infiltrated the world nobles and got the poisonous alcohol. He then stages a play with Raphael, where he drinks a fake poison and allows the rebel forces to capture him and take him away for execution. As a specter, Raphael can't be executed in normal ways, so they decide to give him a witch's execution and throw his skeletal body into flames. As Raphael's skeleton is burning, the humans around him celebrate and get drunk on madness. Edward doesn't understand why they are celebrating the death of their hero, to which the noble replies to him that humans are just like this. They are always happy to see the strong be brought to their knees. Just then, a gust of wind knocks everyone down, and when the commotion is settled, they look at the sky and find that the Demon Lord is here. The Demon Lord solemnly asks Raphael if he still wants to defend this humanity even after witnessing what they did to him. She still tells him that her offer stands. If he extends his hand to ask for her help, she will not only save him, but also give him a new body. However, even after being betrayed by the humans whom he swore to protect, Raphael still doesn't feel angry at them. In fact, he tells the Demon Lord that a man like him deserves the death that he is having right now. Moreover, hearing this, the Demon Lord leaves the place and Raphael burns to the ashes, forever to be immobilized in history. After his death, Edward grabs the list and starts taking down each task one after one. Just like this, 100 years passed. And in this time, many more heroes came to save the continent, but all of them failed, as they were not Raphael. During this 100 years, Edward endured the torture of time and loneliness, but he continued to leave behind the signs that Raphael had ordered him to leave before his death. This includes carving the stone rock on the cliff, buying illegal weapons, digging a hole, and then burying those weapons with a sign for the one who will open it in the future. With this, the future started to change, and the cogs of fate started to spin just like how Raphael intended. And now, years later, Kazuya finds himself opening the box, and finds the gift that Raphael had left for him from the past. He also finds the note where the enemies will appear, so he stands there with his gun barrel preemptively aimed at the head of his future enemy. The enemy is none other than number 7, who has already climbed all the way up to the cliff and finds her face right in front of Kazuya's gun barrel. Just a few moments ago, Kazuya was confused to point his gun in the air where there was no one. He wanted to go back and reread the prophecy, but he decided to trust Raphael in the end. And soon enough, his patience rewards him when he finds number 7 in front of his eyes. Kazuya can sense that the trajectory and timing is perfect, so he pulls the trigger and a bullet shoots out at 400 meters per second, or 1,200 feet for the Americans. No normal person below level 50 can dodge the bullet at point-blank range. The number 7 also knows this, so she resigns her fate to the goddess. The number 3, who is just beside her, can see that there is no future where number 7 can survive, unless he can do something to go beyond his limits and shatters the law of speeds. In that moment, number 3 broke past all of his limits and his speed was greater than the bullet. But it was still not enough. He didn't have much time to push aside number 7, so he chose to put himself between the bullet's path, so that at least the number 7 will survive, and live a happy life in his place. And just like that, the bullet shoots straight into his heart with the momentum pushing him into number 7, who is already on the edge of the cliff. This pushes number 7 down the cliff, while the number lays on the ground coughing out blood from his mouth. All of this is witnessed by Edward, who after 100 years has turned into a skeleton just like his master. He praises his master for his foresight, as just like he predicted, number 3 sacrificed himself to save number 7, whom he had feelings for. Now that his master's prophecy has been fulfilled, Edward decides to finish up setting his one last final trick as well. Meanwhile, Kazuya is shocked as he thought that he had shot the number 7, but after he blinked his eyes, the number 7 was nowhere to be found, and only number 3 remained in front of him with a hole in his chest. The poor number 3 is still unable to comprehend how Kazuya knew where they would come from, and wonders if he has future sight or something. However, Kazuya tells him that he is also as confused as him right now, because that's not what he was expecting to happen. To make sure that the prophecy has been fulfilled, he quickly goes back to the box and starts reading the rest of the tablets. One of the tablets has a message from Raphael, who tells him that he is so weak that he can beat him, even without being revived. Kazuya falls for his rage bait, and angrily asks Raphael what he can do then to get out of this life and death situation. Kazuya then looks at the other tablet, which tells him to use the goddess's powers to summon heroes from the past. Kazuya is shocked to learn this, because this was supposed to be his most grave secret that he has not told anyone yet, so he wonders if Raphael is a prophet or a damn cursed magician. While Kazuya is cursing Raphael back on the battlefield, F1 suddenly unleashes another powerful annihilation beam which slices off the giant hand that was about to smash into him. The damage is transferred back to number 6, whose real hands are also cleanly sliced off. After seeing this, the number 5 is so scared that he starts to run away, fearing that he might be F1's next target. However, his holy sword is even more scared of F1, that is rebels against him, and dives straight into his deepest caves. On the topic of holes, the number 1 is even more miserable, as he goes from becoming a cheap copy of Griffey to a cheap copy of Toji Fushiguro, because of the huge hole left in his body by F1's laser. The number 2 is traumatized after seeing all of this, and can't believe that the super soldiers had the capacity to shoot more than one round of forbidden lasers. But the most traumatized one is number 4, who realizes that F1 didn't use his annihilation beam against them, but at number 8, who was fighting the rest of the super soldiers. Back to Merit, she keeps on begging the castle guards to open the door, but no one seems to be listening to her. Just when she is about to give up hope, Marie appears and tells her to compose herself, as the night isn't over and the hunt is still going on. She takes both Maid and Panda with her and forcefully breaks through the gates. The castle guards were busy enjoying the party which the demon chief Esteto had sponsored for them, so they were carefree that no one would dare to disturb them. Because after the night is over, Lord Estato will become a King Forge, becoming a rightful heir to the Demon Lord's throne. However, when the castle gates are blasted apart, they are all shocked and quickly ask the intruders what their purpose is for invading the castle. But when they see that it's Marie, they quickly shift their behavior and even invite her to have a drink with them. But Marie rejects their offer and asks them in simple words if they are going to send reinforcements to help Kazuya or not. The generals are hard stuck between offending Marie or offending the demon chief who is going to become a King Forger very soon. In the end, all four of them decide to side with Estato and tell Marie that they are proud demon race people, so they won't be sending any of their soldiers to help a lowly human like Kazuya. They also remind Marie to not become arrogant, just because the Demon Lord has given her the authority to supervise the royal capital. They inform her that the demon military can't be controlled by others, and that they will only follow the command of King Forgers and the Demon Lord. Marie doesn't argue with them and instead tells them that she will scatter flowers on their graves if she feels like it. The demon generals scoff at her words, but just then, a white-haired man by the name of Finn Smith appears out of nowhere as Marie hands him a piece of paper. On the paper, she has written all the charges on the four generals, so she asks him to review it through the Demon Lord's governing laws and give proper punishment to the generals if they are found guilty. By the time the four generals realize who Marie has summoned, it's already too late, as the Demon Lord's Book of Laws has already decided that the four generals have violated various laws of the kingdom, and that they will be punished to death. The four generals curse Estato for dooming them, but it's useless as they are already within the scales of the law. The same law that granted them powers to rule over commoners is now stripping away their ranks, their powers, and even their lives. This is why all the corrupt individuals in the kingdom fear the Book of Law, because if the Demon Lord's special ops uncover their corruption, there is only one punishment: eternal sleep. However, Estato isn't even fazed after witnessing all of this, because his status makes him immune to the Book of Laws. Marie tells him that she never planned to go after him in the first place, and nor did she need any reinforcements, as the Forbidden Guards are enough to take care of the assassins that he sent after Kazuya. Back at the battlefield, Fef1 is collapsing from overusing his annihilation beams, but that's not what he cares about. He is more worried about his comrades and his mission. He doesn't know whether he will be able to save all of them and then have enough strength to see through the end of the mission. This reminds him of his childhood, where he stood above countless other corpses and wonders if anything has changed. He is also reminded of his last meeting with Dr. Valkyrie, who told him that although he can use 4 beams in a row, he won't be able to survive after he uses the second one. Fef1 had already accepted his fate, so he requested Dr. Valkyrie to not tell anyone about this, as he doesn't want his enemies or his friends to know. A month before Kazuya arrived into this world, the Demon Lord invited Marie to her personal room and told her that she is too weak, so she should choose a few forbidden guards to stay with her all the time. Marie accepts her generous gift, so in return the Demon Lord asks her opinion on a small thing. Marie wonders if this is something related to the final battle of Rockfort, as they will be fighting against General Helga, who is known to be one of the strongest humans in recent years. But that's not what the Demon Lord invited her here for. She invited her because she wanted Marie to help her decide which helmet she should wear for the battle. Marie almost lost consciousness after hearing this, and asks the Demon Lord to give back all of the concern she had for her just now. The Demon Lord smiles and reminds Marie that being her secretary also means being her personal friend, so she can't ask her friend a simple wardrobe question. Marie replies to her that she would rather fight a battle against a whole army than help her choose things as a friend. But unfortunately, Marie had no choice but to follow her orders, and after she helped her choose a helmet, Marie left to go and choose forbidden guards for her. But in the kingdom, there is a rule that the forbidden guards choose their own masters. That's how Marie became the master of Fef1 and the rest of his brothers. But all forbidden guards need to be equipped with a one-time trump card, which destroys their inner core to blast a powerful laser that cuts through everything, even opponents of above level 50. But this trump card renders them useless, so Fef1 told Dr. Valkyrie to implant all 4 annihilation beams inside of him because he doesn't want his other bros to suffer. I1 has always felt grateful to his brothers, because if not for them, he would have already died 350 years ago. A long time ago, when Hero Raphael was active, the humans were decimating the demon race. The demon race was running low on soldiers, so they decided to use children instead. They gave these children explosives and told them to go and strike the human bases with them. They called 3 children running explosives, and they were just disposable weapons. F1 was one of those children. He was caught by the military and forced to carry out these explosions. But F1 was a coward, so unlike other children who were easily manipulated, he didn't just go and die for nothing. He waited for the rest of the children to do their stuff, but didn't go inside with them. F1 thought he was clever, but his betrayal was caught by a soldier who reminded him that running away from the battlefield is treason. But before the soldier could do anything, the other Frepper Bros arrived and saved F1 from them. They destroyed the evidence that F1 had betrayed the military code and took him in as a little bro. From that day on forward, they all trained together, ate together, and even fought on the battlefield together. This formed a solid bond between them, and they all promised to open a gym after the war was over. But what they didn't know was that the war had just started, and that their dreams were just mere illusions. One day, they were all called to a parade, which was led by the second-in-line King Forger Drax. who was the first director of the tax office 350 years ago. Drax was a civil officer, so he had never stepped into a battlefield. This made him a target for bullying amongst the other king forgers who called him derogatory terms. After suffering quietly for a long time, Drax had enough of everything. He left the tax office and stepped right into the battlefield, promising that he will take down the walls of Orville, one of the strongest defensive cities of the human kingdom. The demon race had only 8,000 soldiers. Meanwhile, the human race had 60,000 soldiers. But Drax did not care about the numbers because he was a tax officer after all. If he knew the numbers game, the kingdom tax collection wouldn't have been this terrible. So he led the 8,000 troops to battle against a whole city, and the result was just as devastating as they could have imagined. They were utterly defeated. Even after Drax transformed into a giant dragon and tore through the walls like they were made of cheese, it was still not enough. Because there was an even greater wall standing in their way, and that was the 17-year-old hero Raphael, who sliced the dragon's head and destroyed the demon race's morale in a matter of seconds. The aftermath of the battle was tragic, with countless corpses lying around everywhere. But that was still not the end, because Drax wasn't dead yet. Despite his dragon form being cut into half, Drax came from the dead and started to absorb the life force of the fallen soldiers to revive himself once again. But even infinite regeneration was useless against someone like Raphael, who had the power of holy fires on his hands. With a burst of his sword, the holy fire spread throughout the whole battlefield, and it burned everything in its sight. This included the Efrees bros, who knew that they cannot survive this fire, so they decided to save their little brother instead. They pushed Fef1 inside of the dragon's mouth and sealed it from every side, in hopes that the holy fire won't be able to burn through the dragon's head, and F1 will remain safe. And they weren't wrong. Fef1 would have indeed survived if not for their commander Drax having the same idea to hide inside his dragon form's mouth. But the Efree brothers knew that Drax won't spare them to avoid anyone from leaking the information that he led 8,000 soldiers to death, while he himself killed half to just stay alive. So they refused to let him inside the mouth, but Drax didn't care and used his vines to smack away all three of them. But just when he was about to open the mouth of the dragon, Fef1 jumped out and knocked Drax onto the ground. He placed his rifle into Drax's mouth and told him that all his life he regretted being a coward who couldn't save his friends from walking towards useless deaths. That's why today he will redeem himself by taking revenge for all of them by putting an end to his miserable life. The Fef brothers cheered for F1 as he pulled the trigger and killed one of the 9 king forgers. But even after killing Drax, the F brothers didn't survive and they all were burned to crisp. However, somehow their bodies were rescued, and that's how they found themselves here in this facility, as modified super soldiers. Marie didn't know how much of the story was true, but she still gave him a chance to redeem himself by proving himself useful to her. She gave Dr. Valkyrie the green signal, and told her that she can go ahead and plant all 4 annihilation beams inside of him. After the modification was done, they became known as the Forbidden Four and started following Marie on her every operation. From meeting Kazuya for the first time to learning that they will need to protect him, they were all there with Marie. The Fev brothers admired Kazuya, who despite being a weak human, he had the courage to stand against the strongest opponents. They also saw that he genuinely cares about his subordinates, and doesn't let them throw away their lives for no reason. This is why Fef1 didn't hesitate to sacrifice his arm to grab onto Kazuya when he was taken away by Asteto's powers. But what happened next surprised him even more. Instead of running away and abandoning him to fight the assassins all alone, Kazuya teamed up with him, and even risked his life to save him from the assassin's boss. That's when Fef1 decided that he will save Kazuya no matter what, even if it means he needs to sacrifice his life. But now Fef1 doesn't know what to do anymore, as even after he has activated his annihilation beam for the second time, the opponent who stands in front of him is someone who shouldn't be even alive anymore. Esteto, who was supposed to be a human and the master of General Helga, turns out to be the second king forger, Drax of the tax office. To reawaken his powers, he uses his vines to absorb the life essence of all of his students, which is enough to make him grow back his beautiful horns on his head. Meanwhile, a few moments after Drax fired his annihilation beam, Kazuya was reading through all of the tablets hidden in the cliff by his student Edward. After reading them, Kazuya realized that Raphael was one hell of a chatterbox who didn't know how to shut up. If that wasn't already annoying enough, he also wants him to sacrifice his life to use the goddess's power to summon heroes from the past into this world. Kazuya rejects this idea as if he wanted to save the world. He wouldn't have slimed the goddess. But Raphael tells him that he doesn't need to summon all the heroes, but only the strongest ones. This way he will only need to sacrifice 30 years of his life. He also tells him the method for it, which is to use the relics of past heroes, and use them as anchors in time to summon their souls to the present. That's why it had taken Edward almost a century to gather all the different relics from the past heroes, and bury them in a quarry so that Kazuya won't have to do any hard work. But even after all of this, Kazuya refuses to sacrifice his 30 years of lifespan, as he tells Raphael that he only cares about a few people in this world, and that they all barely deserved a month of his lifespan. He's only willing to give 10 years to Fef1, but he knows that F1 will pay him back those 10 years no matter how it's possible. Raphael tries to coerce him by telling him that his mere 30 years of lifespan will be enough to save the whole world forever. But Kazuya rejects it by saying that this world has only made his life even more miserable, especially those people from the goddess's camp. Raphael is unable to respond to his questions any further, so he decides to leave Kazuya with one last warning, that he needs to quickly make his judgment, as an overwhelming force is about to take action on him. Kazuya is about to ask him what that force is when suddenly the number 3 grabs onto his legs and calls out for his teacher to spare his wife. Kazuya wants to ask him if being shot in the chest has affected his brain capacity, because he isn't his teacher. But just then, he remembers Raphael's words and looks at the sky and finds Ain with demonic horns flying in the air using his vines. He sucks away all the life force from number 7 and throws her at Kazuya's feet, who is too distracted to even look at her mummified face. Kazuya instinctively shoots Aim, who is unfazed by it and reminds Kazuya that he should have joined his assassin's classes, because then he could have known that bullets don't work against monsters like him. Kazuya is creeped out by his words, but he also wants to save his life. So he points his gun at number 7 on his feet and warns Aima that if he dares to do anything, he will shoot his favorite student. Aima can't help but laugh at Kazuya's naiveness as he tells him to first look at number 7's face before threatening him with her life. Kazuya looks down and finds that number 7 has been sucked dry and turned into a mummy. The number 3 is about to scream in pain when suddenly, a vine also shoots into him and turns him into a mummy as well. After absorbing his students and regaining even more of his strength, Aim announces himself to Drax, the first ever director of the tax office. Just like Kazuya is confused, Marie is not doing any better, so she asks Asteto to explain who is the real Drax and who is the real Aim. Asteto explains to Marie that they are both the same person, because 350 years ago Drax was not killed, as true king forgers can never die, as they can always be reconstructed by the Demon Lord. But Drax was rather unfortunate, as during his reconstruction, he was kicked away by the Demon Lord and exiled from the Demon Kingdom. But Drax could never resent his mother, so he spent the next 350 years working to redeem himself. There were only 2 ways he could ever redeem himself: either bring the head of hero Raphael to the Demon Lord, or complete a mission of incomprehensible value for the demon race. Drax couldn't really kill the hero Raphael anymore, because he was already killed by his own people, so he had only one option: infiltrate the human kingdom to destroy the roots of their hero program. He spent many years building a hero academy, where he trained heroes from childhood, raising them to become weapons for humanity. But all of this was a facade to corrupt the hero institution of the human world with his evil management schemes. He destroyed all the other hero institutions, and when all the humans could rely on was his institute, he started to corrupt the human heroes and turn them against each other. With this, the human race's number of heroes started to dwindle low each year. This meticulous plan allowed Drax to not only recover his strength, but also destroy humanity's strongest foundation, their heroes. Marie is astonished to hear that Drax had such an impact even after being kicked away by the Demon Lord, but Marie still doesn't understand why Asteto is helping him, when the return of a King Forger will only further ruin his chances to become a new King Forger himself. Asteto corrects Marie by explaining to her that to become a King Forger, a demon chief first needs 10 million contribution points. This is the first condition, but the second condition is even more difficult to achieve, as it requires approval from a King Forger themselves. That's why Asteto was willing to be a weapon for the 5th seat, so that he would not only win their favor as well, but also help Drax regain his seat as the tax office's director, which would earn him the approval from Drax as well. Talk to Kazuya. He looks at Drax, who seems to be very excited to announce his return after 350 years. But Kazuya can feel a deep sense of longiness in the heart of Drax, which is something he can relate to as well. He tells Drax that he is the same as him, as before coming over to this world he always wondered when he would become a full-time employee. This made him very excited, so much that he wouldn't be able to sleep thinking what sort of food he will eat after becoming a full-time employee, and how he would share drinks every weekend with his manager, who will finally treat him like a human. But sadly, that day never came, and Kazuya was always left hanging, waiting for the approval of others. Drax's feeling resonates with Kazuya's emotion, as he has also been seeking approval of his mother for centuries after being kicked away from home. Now that the hour of the moment is finally upon him, he doesn't know what to do next. Kazuya extends a handshake over to Drax, who grabs it and even pulls Kazuya into a hug. Then Kazuya congratulates Drax for finally returning to being a demon, and welcomes him back. Drax thanks Kazuya, but he reminds him that he shouldn't have forgotten that he never changed his target. Saying this, Drax sends out his vines and traps Kazuya, so he won't be able to run away anymore. Kazuya asks Drax why he must kill him, when they can live in peace together. Drax tells Kazuya that the day he met him for the first time, he had already decided that he would kill him one day no matter what. Kazuya is still confused, as he doesn't remember meeting Drax before today. Drax corrects him by informing him that they met 46 days ago at the Rock Fort, when he was still hiding amongst the humans as Ame. After thinking hard, Kazuya finally remembers seeing him standing behind Helga, but he always mistook him for a weak old man, because of how short he was. Drax ignores his remarks on his heights and asks Kazuya if he knows why Helga wore those bandages around herself. Kazuya answers that he always believed it to be a fan service for the viewers. This assures Drax of his theory that the goddess had truly summoned a hero from another world. But that's for later, as he corrects Kazuya that they were not fan service and had a proper use case. Helga was one of the most talented humans he had ever seen, so he was worried that she would grow up to be too strong. But he didn't also want to limit her strength, because that would defeat his goal of training a strong hero. So in the end, he decided to manipulate her into wearing the demonic binds, which would allow him to absorb all of Helga's magical powers when activated, making her a sitting duck for him to kill. He planned all of this to impress the Demon Lord in the final battle against Helga and the last of the human rebels. But Kazuya's appearance ruined all of it. Not only did he look like someone from outer world, but his confidence also scared Drax, who became worried that he might really have the strength to defeat the Demon Lord. That's why he decided to stay behind to see what happens. But in the end, when he saw him backstabbing Helga and surrendering to the Demon Lord, Drax realized that he was worried for nothing. But this also meant that he wasted his only opportunity to gain the favor from the Demon Lord and return back to the kingdom in a powerful manner, which is why Drax had always planned to kill him. But now that he is presented with the honor, he wants to enjoy it fully by torturing him by killing all of his loyal dogs first, which is a perfect torture for a self-proclaimed Demon Lord's most loyal dog like Kazuya. Kazuya warns Drax that if he dares to hurt Fef1, he won't even forgive him, but Drax doesn't listen to him and flies away. But this frees Kazuya from the vine's trap, so he quickly chants a small prayer for the couple who died on the cliff and tells them to not haunt him in his dreams, as it was still their teacher who killed them in the end. After saying his prayers, Kazuya starts gathering the vines to create a rope to go down the cliff and stop Drax from killing Fur1. But as he is climbing down, he finally realizes that he shouldn't have done something like this, as there is no way an unathletic person like him can climb down such a cliff with a simple vine. Kazuya tries to comfort himself by reminding himself that he is a hero, and heroes don't die this easily. But just then, the vine breaks and he starts falling down from the cliff, head first. In the meantime, Drax arrives at the forest, where he finds that even after being hurt by the Annihilation Beam, number 8 still seems to be alive. This makes him realize that she must have awakened some mixed abilities like super durability and super regeneration, which allowed him to survive a blast like this. So even though Drax doesn't care about keeping up appearances anymore, he still praises her for being his second strongest student after Helga. But number 8 doesn't care about his praise, as she tells him that she now knows why she was haunted by the ghosts of the dead in her dreams. She tells him that it's all his fault that he made her kill innocent people, because he wanted to grow them into cold-hearted killers. Drax praises him for finally growing up, and is a bit sad that children can't always remain cute and innocent. With this, he has no other use of them, so he decides to get rid of her once and for all. But just then, he notices that number 8 is not alone, as there is number 10 and number 9 hiding behind her. He realizes that she must have put herself in the way of the blast, which shows that she has regained her humanity, making all of his teaching useless. So he decides to get rid of the other two as well, and uses his vines to absorb their life force while also giving Harmon a reminder that he should remain loyal to the tax department, or he will also suffer like this. After sparing Harmon's life because there is a lack of people who can do math, Drax heads back to the main battlefield, where his students are shocked to see his true form. Before they can understand what's going on, Drax uses his vines to grab all of them and starts absorbing their lifespans. Livermore recognizes the vines behind Drax and remembers that it's him. Back to Kazuya, he starts praying to the gods as he is falling, as he fully expects himself to become a meat patty if he hits the ground. But fortunately, he ends up falling onto a sledge where he finds yet another tablet, which tells him that the moment he jumped down to save his friends, he had already become a hero. Kazuya ignores Raphael's sentimental values, as he is more focused on the shortcut that he left for him to go down. Kazuya immediately runs into the tunnel, which leads to a huge hole down in the middle, which Kazuya falls into, but instead of falling on the ground, he finds himself in a water cave. While Raphael is playing with Kazuya for rejecting his offer, Fef1 is shocked to learn that Drax is back from the dead, even though he was sure that he had slain him. Aside from that, he is also terrified to see him absorbing the life energy of his poor students in order to increase his own strength. In all of his years, Fef1 has yet to meet someone who is more evil and horrifying than Drax, as he hasn't changed even after 350 years and is still willing to consume the lives of his own people, if it means having a chance to survive. But even after absorbing the life of all the assassins, Drax is still not satisfied, so he uses their bodies and heads to create a demonic sacrificial circle, which allows him to gain the abilities and strengths of his students without even having to learn them. Fef1 thought he had a chance to defeat Drax, but after seeing his demonic strength, he starts to doubt himself, and wonders if he can even do something to save Kazuya, even if that's the last thing he can do. But before he can go over to save Kazuya, Kazuya comes out to save him. He comes sliding out from the water tunnel and lands right in front of F1, and assures him that no one will be able to harm him now. Kazuya's graceful landing impresses the Holy Sword that hasn't seen a more astounding hero like Kazuma in centuries, so much so that it abandons number 5's darkest caves and comes out to watch how Kazuya will save Fef1. While the sword is praising Kazuya, Kazuya is trying to understand where did Drax go, because the man in front of him doesn't look old at all. But his confusion is cleared when he hears the young man with glasses speak and realizes that it must be Drax, who has somehow gotten way younger. Drax tells Fef1 that he has a deal for him because he respects the courage he had for going after him 350 years ago. So he proposes to him that if he abandons Kazuya and lets him take his head, he will let him go, as there is no point for him to abandon his life just because of a few orders. Kazuya is worried that Drax might really convince, so he tells Fem1 that he shouldn't listen to his words and follow his duty or else Marie won't be happy with him. Fem1 is disappointed with Kazuya's words and realizes that Kazuya is the same just like the rest of people who only care for themselves when their lives are threatened. But he doesn't feel bad, as he is going to die soon anyways, so he decides to follow his mission till the end. But before he can move ahead, Kazuya stops him and tells him that he's free to go. He overrides Marie's orders and tells Fef1 that he doesn't need to die for the sake of anyone else. Fef1 is deeply moved by his words, but the most moved one is still the Holy Sword, who promises to follow Kazuya till the end of his life. Meanwhile, Drax couldn't be more angry, as he had expected his words to start infighting, but instead Kazuya deflected them by casually becoming a hero of everyone. This makes him abandon all of his schemes and just eliminate both of them from the face of this world. However, before his vines can reach Kazuya, the Holy Sword cuts them in half, which gives Fef1 enough time to activate his retreat system, where he grabs Kazuya and flies off straight into the sky. Dig Asta2 is too shocked after seeing Fef1 and Kazuya escape the entrapment of one of the King Forgers. Meanwhile, Marie adjusts her glasses like an anime protagonist, as she had always expected them to escape this easily. She then casually hands over another paper to Finn Smith, and tells him that these are the crimes of Fef1, who has the bounty on his head for murdering a commander-in-chief, while she blames Kazuya for having a weapon of mass murder on his hand. Finn Smith tells her that these allegations are enough for the state to take both of them into custody, but reminds her that if they are proven otherwise, she will be charged with defamation. Dex Tao is extremely pissed off at Marie as he can't believe that she found a loophole inside the law to protect Kazuya from Drax, without even using the royal army. But Drax is not willing to give up this easily, so he sacrifices the head of number 3 and uses his super speed to quickly catch up to Kazuya and stop him from entering the Oberville city. Chofai. F1 doesn't have flying capabilities, so he used the annihilation beam to lift him into the sky. He then used the fourth and final beam to keep himself airborne, so he can at least carry Kazuya into the city. Kazuya is terrified to crash into the ground at such speed, so he asks Faf1 if he can't somehow land a bit slowly. The F1 replies to him that he doesn't have jet engines, so all he can do is slow down a bit before crashing so that he won't be hurt. And even though F1 is literally melting, he keeps his promise and uses his body as a cushion to stop Kazuya from getting injured even despite the hard crash. After they land, F1 asks Kazuya as to why he is crying. Kazuya grabs his heart and tells Fef1 that he had a method to protect himself. But he was so scared of losing his life that he couldn't bring himself to do it, so he apologizes to F1 to forgive him, because he wouldn't have been in such terrible condition if he wasn't a coward. Their F1 smiles after hearing his concern, and tells Kazuya that if he wants to become the Demon King, he shouldn't always be this kind. But he also tells him that he is happy to die like this, because at least he sacrificed his life to save a life of a human. He remembers when Kazuya told him that he wanted to become a Demon King. He just laughed at him and told him that if he were to leak this news, the Demon Lord would give him a huge promotion. To which Kazuya didn't get angry and instead told him that he better survive long enough to tell the Demon Lord the truth himself. So he is happy that he met Kazuya, and gives him one last thumbs up before shutting down forever. Kazuya is emotionally scarred after witnessing the death of Phi 1. Even though he knew that it was coming, despite that, he can't process what to do. He feels all sorts of emotions dancing in his body. Just as Kazuya is about to explode from inside from the guilt, pain, and anger on himself, Drax enters the city at lightning-fast speed and finds himself in a familiar environment where he lost his seat 350 years ago. After seeing Drax, Kazuya's all emotions converge into rage, which he directs straight towards into activating the summoning ritual, and that too at full power. The combined power of all the heroes of the past is so strong that Kazuya's body literally starts to break apart, but he doesn't care for that at the moment, because all he wants to do right now is beat the living hell out of Drax. Before Drax can even react, Kazuya arrives in Drax's face and punches him straight in the face, which flies him through half of the city, leaving him mangled into concrete and steel rebars. But Kazuya doesn't stop there, as he then grabs Drax's vines and pulls him towards him, and starts to play him around like a fidget toy. After throwing him away like trash, Kazuya stops as he realizes that his whole body is breaking apart. Drax also realizes that Kazuya can't use this power for so long and becomes haughty once again. He immediately starts regenerating his body using the power of his #1 student. He reminds Kazuya that he should have killed him when he had the chance, but now that his body is breaking apart, he won't be able to do anything to him. Kazuya knows that Drax is telling the truth, but the rage inside his body is still consuming him from inside, so he stops worrying about his burnt skin and goes straight for a jab at Drax's face. But before his punch can land on Drax, he uses the indestructible superpower of his #4 student to make him as tough as gold. So when Kazuya's fist finally lands on him, his arm breaks from the sheer impact. Drax then uses the #3 student's super speed to punch and kick Kazuya hundreds of times in a second, which leaves him all bloodied in the end. To end his combo, Drax uses the #2 student's thunder power to finish the battle in one hit. But Kazuya grabs onto his leg mid-fight and bites off a chunk from it. Even Drax is caught off guard by his barbaric fighting style and wonders if Kazuya really likes the role of a dog. While Drax is healing his leg, Kazuya summons the Holy Sword and infuses all of his power into it. It was at this moment Drax realized that he was cooked, so he just accepts his fate and lets Kazuya swing his sword into his right side, which destroys half of the town. This whole battle is witnessed by Esteto and Marie, who can't believe that Drax was defeated by a mere human like Kazuya. This makes Marie realize that the Demon Lord wasn't lying when she told her that Kazuya is a man who won't hesitate to risk his life to bite a chunk of yours. That's why she called him a wolf in sheep's clothing, which suits a dog like him. Deck to the present, Kazuya finally loses control of his powers and is unable to control the flow of Goddess's power anymore. His body starts to expand as if it's going to burst open. Each cell of his body seems to be growing into different embryos belonging to different heroes. Kazuya tries to control them from bursting open, but his body doesn't listen to him and keeps expanding. This reminds Kazuya of that one time when he had a terrible diarrhea, and he thought he was going to explode before reaching the bathroom, but his body kept his cave closed until he could finally reach the toilet and let it all out. This is how Kazuya has always treated the Goddess's power, like a violent diarrhea that scares him that if he can't control it, it might make him explode. That's when he came across the idea of using the Force to make his body break past all of its limits and give him the Goddess strength without dying a horrible death, which is why he was able to control his body from bursting open till this point, but he doesn't know how long he can hold it anymore. The embryos seem to be growing bigger, forcing his body to turn into the size of a titan as well. Kazuya had expected that his power would be like Deku from My Hero Academia, which might just break his body if he used it fully. But now, it doesn't seem like that anymore, as he seems more like a virgin mother trying to birth thousands of children at once. Kazuya is horrified to even think of that. But as much as Kazuya is horrified, the other people are also horrified around him, especially Esteto, who quickly tries to stop Kazuya while also sending orders to his executives to stop Finn Smith from detaining Kazuya and taking him into his custody. Finn Smith regrets falling for Marie's ploy as he is now forced to go after a giant pregnant human, while also trying to survive a battle against a Master Elf Archer. That Master Elf Archer turns out to be none other than Grifino, whom Asta decided to forgive and give one last chance to redeem himself and the lives of his family. He tells the maid that he has fulfilled his mission, and with this he should be able to redeem the lives of his aunt and caretaker. Meanwhile, all this commotion awakens the Demon Lord, who comes out in her pajamas and finds Edward snooping around the city. Edward is terrified to see her, and is worried that she might interfere with Raphael's plan. But the Demon Lord surprises him and tells him to do whatever he wants, as she is also excited to see what sort of plan the humanity's strongest hero had imagined that could even defeat her with 100% certainty. Edward decides to trust her, and grabs out the 5 relics of the strongest heroes in history and shoots them towards Kazuya. While the 5 relics are coming to take Kazuya's life, Kazuya is busy in his mind fighting with his inner demons. He wonders if it's really worth it to risk his life for someone like F1, whom he just met. But then he remembers that F1 is the only friend he had since his college days. That's why he really wanted F1 to survive, so they could have gone to a bar and drank some beers together. This is the life he had envisioned after escaping his life as a salaryman, but now he finds himself becoming a sacrificial pawn for humanity's strongest hero to revive himself and take the whole glory for himself. Yes, just then the 5 relics smash right into Kazuya's hand and find themselves reaching their respective owners. One by one, the embryos in Kazuya's body explode, as all 5 of the heroes come out of them. The first one is Eris Immortal Shield, the second one is Vera, the goddess of all magic, the third one is Karin, the wanderer of the stars, the fourth one is Arius, the lord of sky. This leaves behind their leader and the final hero, Raphael, also known as humanity's strongest hero. He leads all 4 heroes and tells them that they will be following his orders from now on. The heroes have no problem, as Raphael is the most legendary figure in their heart. Meanwhile, Drax, who is thinking of running away, sees Raphael. He forgets about everything and instantly rushes at him to avenge his defeat 350 years ago. But he's not the only one, as one by one the rest of the King Forgers also arrive into the city to take control of the overgrowing situation. Raphael can't help but twitch after seeing all these troublesome children coming out to ruin his day. This forces him to use a forbidden art to sacrifice the remaining hero embryos to use a blood art to summon the doors of time and space. This seals the space around the city, not allowing any of the King Forgers to come inside. The other heroes are scared to see Raphael sacrifice innocent lives just for a forbidden magic. They wonder if this makes him any different from the Demon Lord. Raphael can sense their fear, so he reminds them that they have lost to the Demon Lord for 500 years, so it doesn't matter how many lives they need to sacrifice to finally end her tyrannical reign. He assures them if defeating the Demon Lord means sacrificing his own life, he also won't hesitate to lay it down. Meanwhile, the King Forgers are angry that they can't get inside the city where their mother is trapped. One of the King Forgers reminds the others that they don't need to keep their faces anymore, as the Demon Lord doesn't trust any of them, so it's better if they can do something worthwhile for her to regain her love and mercy. Back in the city, Esteto was worried that the other King Forgers might steal all of the glory, but when he saw that they are sealed outside, he immediately becomes excited, and summons the Mother Elf tree to create an army of mushroom spores which he sends after the heroes to defeat them. But all of his mushroom army is destroyed in a single magical attack by Vera, which also creates a huge cloud of smoke, giving Karen the opportunity to get behind Estato and attack him while he is caught off guard. And as for Arius and the Aris, they both quickly rush to hold back the Mad Drax, so that Raphael can go and finish his long-due duel with the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord accepts his challenge and matches his sword with her own. The clash of their swords creates a huge shockwave that sends everyone in their radius flying hundreds of meters away. The poor Marie is also caught in that shockwave, but fortunately, Panda and Merit arrive to rescue her and take her to Dr. Valkyrie's secret lab, where they will be safe from the battle of these monsters. But before running away, they take one last look at Kazuya, who looks like Rei from Evangelion at the end of the series, lying in the sea of blood. They can't believe that the death of a captain was enough to cause such a big commotion, but they don't know that the real commotion has yet to happen, as Kazuya's soul arrives at the Cloud Fort, where Antiphon sees him and isn't surprised because he knows that he will sacrifice himself. Kazuya gives him a mid-finger and asks him if he is going to make him reborn as a maggot this time, because even if he does, he won't cry about it. Antiphon asks Kazuya if there is anything that he regrets in his life. Kazuya answers to him that he regrets not punching his bald boss in the face because he was too big of a coward, but if he ever got a chance, he will definitely take revenge, as revenge sounds sweet. The Antiphon is shocked by his selfishness that he can't even say anything. Toei just brings Kazuya into his favorite headspace, but this time in the theater, it's just him and a book. Antiphon shows Kazuya everything that happened after he died, and how so many mortals suffered because of his selfishness. Kazuya asks the Antiphon to stop being a hypocrite, as there is no way that this is all a part of someone, because how can there be a goddess and a demon lord who looks like identical twins? He also doesn't understand how these 5 people can be called heroes when they are literally becoming the reason for so many casualties. So he just asks Antiphon to stop all this facade and send him to his next life, even where he's just a maggot. He isn't worried about reincarnating because it's not that different from just deleting a character save file and starting a new one. But he reminds Antiphon that if he reincarnates as a maggot and he has consciousness, he won't hesitate to immediately jump in front of an insect to die. And Typhon becomes worried about Kazuya's mental health, so he tells him that if he has any questions, he should go and ask the goddess herself. Just then a skeleton hand grabs him from behind, which freezes Kazuya, who was ready for anything but this. Kazuya is for what will happen to Kazuya. Will the goddess forgive, or will she make him die 1,000 cruel deaths? Seeing the scared look on Kazuya's face, Antiphon is pleased with his antics. He tells Kazuya to relax himself as Omiru is dead for sure, and it's just her old ghost haunting him. He also tells him that gods are extremely petty creatures, so even if you kill them, they will always come back to take their revenge, even if it's just their ghost. Kazuya is in no shape to listen to his explanation, because the dead goddess behind him is strangling his neck and twisting his body like he is some rubber toy. Antiphon enjoys the look of pain on Kazuya's face and tells him that only after he dies a painful death that he will send him over to reincarnate. However, Kazuya replies to Antiphon that he isn't afraid of dying a painful death, and that it's just that all this time he was carrying the guilt that his decision to kill Omiru led to many people dying because of him. He still remembers the expression on the faces of people who had their lives ruined because he happened to be near them when the catastrophe struck. So he tells Antiphon that he won't run away from the responsibilities anymore, so he accepts the painful death as his punishment. After Kazuya accepts his fate, the dead goddess crushes his soul body, whose blood and matter splatters all over the Cloud Fort. Antiphon smiles after seeing this and congratulates Kazuya for accepting who he is. He claps for him and reenacts the scene from Neon Genesis Evangelion where everyone claps for Shinji. And he informs Kazuya that only those who accept themselves for who they are capable of becoming the Dimension Keeper. So now that he has also accepted himself, it's his time to become the new Dimension Manager, even though it's temporary. He asks Kazuya to be overjoyed, as this is something that even the Demon Lord hasn't been able to achieve after doing everything she could do in the last 500 years. Therein, as he is explaining, Antiphon takes the souls and brains of both Kazuya and Omiru and switches them with each other, so that Kazuya can become a god even though he is immortal. The process is extremely painful, but also enjoyable as the divine power overflows through Kazuya's body like a warm bath during a winter morning. While Kazuya is in the process of becoming a god, the mortal realm below the Cloud Fort is getting wrecked by the fight between the Demon Lord faction and the Heroes faction. Both sides were completely drained, so they were doing whatever they could to finish off their opponents before they could kill them. Karin, who was once a brilliant mage wandering the stars, has now returned back to Earth as she has no mana left to fly anymore. She can't even summon meteors anymore, so she just uses a piece of star to smash open Esteto's head and finish him off. Once for Drax, after turning into a dragon, he was locked in a stalemate against Arius the Lord of Sky when Arius the Immortal Shield broke the balance by launching a sneak attack from behind. Meanwhile, the strongest of them, Vera, isn't in any better condition, because after her magic staff broke down, she was forced to fight the giant man-eating flower in hand-to-hand combat. This leaves behind only Raphael, the leader of the Heroes faction, who stands in front of the Demon Lord and tells her that she has lost. But the Demon Lord just laughs at his words and tells him that she didn't expect him to revive like this. She thought that he would summon all the heroes of the past or even cherry-pick the strongest of them, but instead, he chose to sacrifice all of them and absorb their strength to increase his chances of winning against her. This level of insanity pleases the Demon Lord, and she tells him that she likes him even more. But her words only scare Raphael, who despite his outer confidence is still unsure how to defeat her. All of the future that he saw, none of them seems to be working anymore. The Demon Lord smiles at him and tells him to not overthink too much, as she will now show him the future that even his vision can't see. Telling him saying this, she summons the Gaia force that she hasn't used since her last fight against Antiphon. Even though Raphael's future sight doesn't work anymore, he can sense the immense danger coming from the Demon Lord. But before he can even react, the Demon Lord places her finger on her lips, and the whole world freezes. As someone who can see into the future, Raphael can sense that the flow of time has stopped, and he knows that there is nothing that he can do to stop the Demon Lord anymore. While the whole world is frozen, the Demon Lord moves close to Raphael and reminds him that his biggest mistake was that he couldn't initiate this plan 100 years ago, as back then she hadn't mastered the Gaia force yet, and couldn't do anything remotely close to stopping the time. While the Demon Lord is enjoying her final confrontation with the mightiest hero in the history of humanity, the mightiest hero of today has undergone his final transformation and has finally become a god. That's a topic for the next video. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.